Okay, so here we've got the game. This is where the game is going to be. On the left side is going to be the timer. This will be replaced by the timer during the event. Down here we have the controller and the display so that we can see the inputs that are being pressed by the task in real time. In the bottom left will be the instructions being spit out by the task. That doesn't represent every single thing that happens, but enough information to demonstrate what we're doing. Now, for the event, what we can do is take this guy and this down here. Can't really see the mouse because it's focusing in a certain way. And we can overlay the game itself with a kind of a green screen version of it so that as text happens, if I were to demonstrate that this way, the text would be over top of the screen, but not with a background so that you can see the game through the text. And similarly with the controller, can make that somewhat transparent. So those are things we will do for the event probably, so that the game is full screen, and we'll figure that out between now and then. But yeah, just waiting on Titan, my co-streamer. So the game's going to cycle a few times here. Before we submit it, I'm going to take this footage here and clip only the parts that we want. So for those of you in stream now, just hang out with me. We'll get started shortly. We'll have a good time. One fun thing you'll notice is that on the timer over here on the left, you will see a column that says PB at the top. That is the best time that the task has achieved so far. And you will also see WR for world record over here. And if you notice, the task has actually beaten the world record. But it cannot hold the world record because it is not a human RTA runner. So we have to be very careful with the way that we say that. We have beaten the record, but we do not hold the record. So we're not like world record holder or anything. Alright, tiny human, I'm gonna go put you down. I know you like your dad time, but also are making it difficult to eat. So go do things here. I know. Sleeping time okay? Alright, give me a couple minutes now that the tiny human is no longer in my lap. I'm gonna try to get in a few bites of food before we get going. Be right back. You know, while we're waiting here, I'm just gonna run the tech demo so that you have something to watch. Oh, never mind, we're ready to go. Let me jump into a channel here. Share screen. That looks good.
Hello.
Hey, Titan. Alright, we are ready to go. Before we get started, the first thing we would do for the event is to close the donation incentive for main character's name. And now I can't hear you.
I'm not saying anything. I'm cleaning up from my stream.
Sure.
Because I'm still trying to learn Final Fantasy.
So for this one, why don't we do people that have been instrumental to the run so far? So I'm going to start with Titan.
So first off, introductions and what this is.
Yep.
So welcome. This is Final Fantasy X, any percent CSR done by task. I'm Mr. Titan, this year's Coder Wilson, and yeah, we're ready to begin whenever.
Yep. I've put in the first 2 names. I'll add a few more here as we get going.
Yep.
So without further ado,
let's begin. So, start it.
Countdown probably on this. 3, 2, 1, start.
Alright, so, this is, so, you know, people know what Final Fantasy X is, they know what speedrun is, they know what any percent is, they don't know what CSR is, and this probably isn't quite what a normal task is gonna be like. Oh, thank you. So, first things first, so we're gonna speedrun Final Fantasy X, we're gonna get through it as fast as we can. This is the any percent category, so all that we're doing is we're getting through to the end of the game. One of the important things, though, is that we're actually running this slightly modded. There are a few mods that are, or patches that are allowed when doing the game normally. First is just a stability patch. But the second one, which is the category they're doing, is the cutscene remover mod. And what this does is, there's been a lot of people who've worked really hard on this, but it removes all cutscenes from the game. Anytime that we would trigger a cutscene, instead the mod just advances the game to the point that it would be after the cutscene and we don't have to watch it. This saves a lot of time. It took about a 9 to 10 hour run and made it into a 3 to 4 hour. Other than that, it's basically the exact same as a normal run. You're just playing it without any of the plot. The next thing is that, you know, we're not controlling the game at all. This is a task. But it's different from what most people would consider to be tasks and what's traditionally done with sort of task movies. In a lot of tasks, the what is going to happen in the game is set. It's known. You play the movie. If everything stays synced, it executes the exact same way every time. You end up with something that's really fast, really consistent. This is not that kind of task. The game, while we do have RNG manipulation that we'll get into more detail later, the game does have a lot of RNG in it. It's not something that can be fully controlled. And there's a lot of different initial seeds and all this sort of stuff that can happen. So what Wilson primarily has done here is created a set of rules, sort of like a game AI, that will react to what is happening in the game and play it and continue going on. There's no machine learning going on or anything like that here. It's just a lot of programming in different rules, scenarios, and so on to go. Wilson's been doing a lot of the work on this for like 3 years or something now.
Yep.
Right? Yep. My role in this project has mostly been as an optimizer. I take what he wrote and I just make it faster. And yeah, so we're in the game. We'll get into a bit more of how the task is working in a second. Yeah, is there anything you want to say before I talk about what's happening in the run so far?
Yeah, I think definitely pick up on what the start of the story is, and then the other piece is the speed at which we can do inputs as a task versus
I'm
humans.
going to say that later. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, so the game started, we're in Xanarkand, which is Titus's hometown. He's a star Blitzball player, athlete, and Blitzball is basically underwater rugby soccer, where people don't need to breathe. Because, yeah.
Don't think too hard about that part of it.
Yeah, don't really think too hard about that part. But unfortunately, our great night has been crashed by the attack of Sin, and everything's kind of being destroyed. Orin, who's been our family friend for 10 years or so, has shown up and gave us a sword, and we're killing all of these Sin spawn here. So it's just a basic in combat tutorial. There's something about overdrives, which we'll get to later. But that's basically what's happening right now. We've got a few. So this fight here, we can't actually finish the fight reasonably. We have to destroy the bridge. The actions that we're taking, if you look at the top right when it pops up, you'll see that there's a turn order. And that turn order is pretty deterministic. It's affected mostly by the character's agility and different actions that characters can take will affect the amount of time until the character takes their next turn. In this fight, we can't attack the tanker until 3 turns have passed, and the easiest, fastest way for us to do that is to switch weapons and for us to attack ourselves, because it just progresses the story further along. We get to attack the tanker and knock it out. After that, we kind of get washed up onto a shore. We don't really know where we are, but Xanarkin's not here. So now's a really good time to talk about what kind of makes a task special compared to a human. Something important to realize is that we're not doing anything in this run that a human could not do. We're just kind of doing it really, really fast. Wilson wrote something that integrates with a few virtual controllers. So we have a way to programmatically send the game controls just as though there was a normal controller being plugged in. The thing is that, we're running at the speed of computer. The game runs at 30 FPS. You can only accept inputs on each frame, but we can check to see exactly when that frame is starting and activate, send a button press as soon as we physically can do something and the game can accept it. What this means is that each button press is only 2 frames long, and the delay between each of them is basically nothing. So if you look here, yeah, that was a menu. And in that menu, we did multiple things. Like, we set the Aeon summoning to short. We set the cursor to memory. And, we opened a menu, went to the submenu, went to 2 different options. We changed both those options, and we put out. The whole thing was like, what, half a second or so?
About a 1.2 seconds, I want to say. Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. Really fast. Much faster than... Now, humans can get fast, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that have gotten really, really great muscle memory with this. But it's not going to be faster than what the task does. And you're going to see this as well in some of the later menus as well, where it just becomes so much faster. You're not really going to be able to keep track of what's going on. Past that, there's not a lot that's really going on here. We have a few fights we have to defend in this fight because we can't actually die. So we're just going to go on and continue.
A little bit of storyline stuff happening here, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you want to talk about seeds?
Not quite yet. I want to actually mention that Foxy Jira is considering running this in parallel with the task, which I think would be really cool because would be a great way for us to showcase how a human would do the exact same things that we're doing here in the task.
Are we going to put on the same seed?
We have that option, or we can use the same kind of what's the tracker?
Yeah, we can let him use the seed, or we can.
Either way, so we got a couple options there that we can look at for doing during the actual event, having it side by side, and I think that'd be really cool. In fact, my wife just walked by and was reading that in the text and was like, "Oh man, that'd be awesome," and then walked away. But anyway, yeah. So while we got a minute here, let's talk just a little bit about the seeds, like you said. So with this, the way that this game works in the PC version is that there are 256 possible seeds that dictate how the entire RNG for the entire run works. If you are doing it as a human player, there are some ways to manipulate and get a preferable seed. And for the task, instead what we have done is, this is the one way that we have modified the game beyond what a normal player would do, is we have disabled the randomness of the seed and we just select the seed that we want. And so to that extent, this would be considered a set seed run versus a human player manipulating the seed. The reason we are running the seed we're running is because over about a 3-month period, I ran all of the possible seeds up to a certain point in the game to see how the randomness played out without me doing any further manipulation besides the way the game is programmed. And we picked about 10 of them that looked very, very interesting or were high up on the leaderboard for the humans players. And then we basically ran those seeds much further into the game, in some cases all the way to the end of the game, to see how they fared at some of the later points. Some of them fell off pretty badly, other ones performed very well, and the seed that we're on here, seed number 31, is one of those seeds that performed well. That is not to say other seeds are possibly better, That is to say, just that we have picked this one and done a little bit of extra optimization on it to get it to where it's at today. So that's the idea behind the scenes.
Yep. So a few things have happened. We were rescued by some Albed, who then promptly proceeded to knock us out and kidnap us. And now we're being forced to dive into an undersea wreck in order to help scavenge some treasure. We've now been introduced to our technically third member of the party, good old question mark woman over here.
Mystery Girl.
Mystery Girl. Yep, it's definitely not going to be important later at all. Nope.
No, not even a little bit.
Yep, and we're just kind of running around, progressing plot. There's going to be a lot of points during this run. It's going to be really apparent later on where the CSR kind of makes things look a bit weird. One of the things about the CSR mod is that you still have to do everything that you would do in a normal speed run. You're just not watching the cutscenes. So as a result, there are going to be points that you're just kind of running around and you run immediately back and you're just like running into the store and back to another one because you need to progress the game state, but you're just not actually seeing it progressing there. So we're about to hit the second boss of the run, which is going to be Tross. Tross is meant to be used as a tutorial for essentially the space mechanics in fights. Like, you've got close range attacks and long range attacks. We're just going to kind of throw grenades until he dies. And this is also a good opportunity to talk about how the TAS is knows like what menu and other things about how the TAS is interacting with the game.
Yeah, so with any computer, you've basically got three things happening. You've got some form of data input, some form of data processing, and some form of data output. In this case, the input is that we're going to look into the game and see what's happening. I'm going to explain that here. Then we process what we're supposed to do next via the TAS, and then we output by the virtual controller that you can see on the screen. So the input is actually we are reading in the game's memory numeric values that represent what's happening on the screen. So if you look in the bottom right corner of the screen right now, you would see that the main character has 436 health, and we can find that 436 value in memory. The mystery girl has 303 health, and we can find that value in memory. And similarly with a few other things like how many items we have in our inventory. You can see here Riku's throwing grenades. Maybe an enemy health. We can see that without using a scan, which is how the normal player would do it. Or a normal player would just see how much damage happens and then do a little quick math in their head. Things like that. Other things are we can know what map we're on. Based on that is a numeric value in memory. We can know if we're in battle or not. That is a 1 or a 0 in memory. There's a lot of... Basically everything that happens in the game is represented by a number value, somewhere in the game's memory. And so what we were able to do is we were able to directly find that, which that process is a whole nother topic, and then respond to what's happening in memory, which represents what's happening in the game, by inputting commands on the controller.
Yep, you kind of repeated yourself there a bit, but...
I do that a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, a good way to think about it is that, you know, visually, we as people can see what's happening on the screen and we can interpret what's happening like that. The computer, the easiest way to do it is just look in the memory and see what is representing what would be on the screen. Other than that, it's getting all the information that a person would, it's just looking at it a bit differently.
Exactly.
The first version of this task actually was doing screen reading. That was a bad idea for a lot of reasons. Primarily, it made transferring it to a different system very non-feasible because everything became hardware dependent and it was just a mess. When I first joined, it was like 2 months before I could actually run this on my computer because everything needed to be shifted over from screen reading to memory reading.
When you move it, when you move the game from one computer to another computer, even just that shift and the difference in graphics cards, it changes very, very slightly, but enough, the way that the pixels and the colors are rendered on the screen, so it's enough to completely throw it off when you go from one player to another trying to run the same task on a different computer.
Yep. And there's been a lot of work done by a lot of members of the community. Peppy, Rossi, Grey Fox, Crimson, etc., who have put a lot of work into helping find memory values for different things. Did I say Rossi?
Mm-hmm.
Into finding memory values so that we can, understand the game more and figure out what's happening. But yeah, so we're done with the Albeds for now. Now we're in Besaid. We've met Waka, who's the captain of the Besaid Aurochs. And he wants us to join his team because we're a star Blitzball player. Even though if he thinks that we're a bit crazy because we say we're in Xanarkand. And here's the thing, everyone thinks that Xanarkand was destroyed 1,000 years ago. So, yeah. There's some encounters that we're going to be fighting here. These encounters are known to us ahead of time because of the seed manipulation that we did. The seed basically affects all amounts of RNG, and we can track elements of them to get what we want. There's going to be a really good example of that later on. But here, it's just we get 2 3-stack piranhas. We're going to fight and kill them because we need some of those items.
Yeah, let's talk real quick about the donation incentives coming up on the next temple here.
Sure.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. So one of the common donation incentives for a game like this is our naming incentives for the different characters. And of the main cast, the only one that can be named is Titus, who's been renamed to Titan here. But over the course of the game, there are 5 or 6 Aeons that can all get custom names. We're going to be receiving one very soon. And the task can read in a file that gets updated whenever we want, and put in what that name is, up to 8 characters, standard alphanumeric stuff, and put it in during the course of the run. So it's something that we can modify on the fly. As long as the incentive gets cut off, sort of 30-ish seconds before we actually get the name, so generally when the trial starts.
Yep.
There's no problem. The incentive can keep on running throughout the rest of the game, throughout the game. There's an additional incentive that we can do at the very end. There are a number of skips that are rather difficult to do, as well as some impressive achievements that can be done that the task just makes look really easy. That don't happen partially because one of them is not in the any percent run, and the other ones get removed because of the cutscene for mod. So that's another thing that's sort of a bonus incentive that we can do at the end. That would be, pretty cool to show.
And I'm thinking, since Foxy is thinking about doing a run in parallel, and that will likely take longer than the task, that would be a dono incentive we can do to continue the task run in parallel with the end of his run.
I wouldn't do that because then that would take away from Foxy.
That's true. Okay. So, a couple options there that we can look at. But yeah, at this point, we would have cut off the incentive for the Valifor summon, and then we would name that. I've already selected a name just for this run based on a member of the community that was instrumental to a lot of this. So you'll see that coming up here. A little juke here.
Yeah, and so, the other conversation with this are, these are the Cloister of Trials. There's a character who we're going to meet very soon, Yuna, who is going on a pilgrimage in order to become a Grand Summoner, summon the final Aeon, and defeat Sin, because Sin has kind of been destroying Spear for a very, very long time. These Cloister of Trials are ways that Yuna can get Aeons, and they're effectively just like giant puzzles. The thing is that the puzzles are the exact same every single time. There's absolutely no RNG in them. So for the task purposes, they're basically like a 3-minute auto-scroller whenever it happens. Not really a lot that goes on there.
Even if you're doing it as a player, RTA style, it still kind of feels like an auto-scroller because you already know that.
Here's the naming.
Yep.
Very fast. That's actually also something that I can optimize. I wrote like an 8-line function in order to do it just for the donation incentives. It's something that I kind of optimized to make it even faster. That I'll
even faster. It's not fast enough, obviously.
It's literally just 4 if statements And like I could actually make it smart about the pathfinding. I just didn't.
Sure.
If you do any spaces, it always goes to a single spot for the space instead of one of the like 9 options, for instance. Yeah.
You want to talk about what we're doing here?
Yep. So it's time for us to say goodbye. There's a lot of cutscenes that we just skipped actually that we're just not doing any of them. But we're back into the village. We've picked up Valefor's another Valefor Overdrive. So we're gonna see a summon fight show up soon, but overdrives are effectively like limit breaks in Final Fantasy VII. Each character has a unique overdrive, and they all can do different things. We actually did see a couple of the overdrives at the beginning of the game in the first Ami's fight, where we had both Orin, who kind of does like a Street Fighter combo, and Titus, who has a like a reaction type minigame where you gotta hit the slider at the correct point.
Almost a carnival minigame on Titus's, yeah.
Yep. The overdrives charge up both by a character taking an action and by a character taking damage. Taking damage tends to fill it up a lot more, and overdrive management is going to be sort of a consistent theme throughout the entire run. These fights here are just tutorial fights, like aerial attackers use Waka, which we never do. Flans, which are resistant to physical, use Lulu, and Laura's going to teach about the type chart. Because for some reason, fire and blizzard, fire and ice are opposites, water and lightning are opposites. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but you know, sure.
Don't think too hard about it. It's another one of those.
Yeah.
It's just, we say that it is this way, therefore it is this way, and you will play our game and have fun. And we do.
Yep. So, this upcoming here is also another nice fight. So, this is Kimahri, it's the main boss battle. Kimahri's AI is always going to do the exact same thing. And, you know, if we get enough AP beforehand, we can actually level Titus up a bit, and it makes the fight a lot easier. As is, we either need Kimahri to miss twice, or for Titus to get a crit before the 7th hit. Now the thing is that we know what seed this is, and because we know the seed and we've been keeping track of everything, we can actually know ahead of time what the damage rolls are going to be. So therefore, we knew that the last hit that we were going to do there is going to be a crit that would that would win the fight, defeat Kimahri, and that means that we don't actually need to potion in order to survive to do another attack. So there are some like forward-thinking elements to the RNG manipulation that you're going to kind of see throughout.
Another element to that you would see in a RTA run is that there is a little bit of potential manipulation around picking up a very specific type of weapon, an electric-based weapon for either Titus or Waka throughout the early game. We can also implement that in the task, but we just have not yet. Just because we've been working on it for 3 years to get it to the state it's in, and optimizing it further is kind of just like that next step of a next generation of making it even better. But it just takes time.
So this here is Yuna's special ability. It's her ability to summon the Aeons. We're going to get more Aeons as the game progresses. The Aeons replace the rest of your party, and they all have stats that are based on Yuna's stats. And they have their own set of abilities and stuff like that. What we're doing here is we're just trying to build up Crimson's overdrive on this Garuda, because the overdrive is going to be extremely important later. We're doing Thunder. It's like 4 frames faster than any other spell that we could choose here, and so it adds up to, you know, maybe a second over the course of this fight. Even if we do have to navigate it to it in the menu, each button press takes 2 frames, so as soon as we fire off the first Thunder, it's already faster. And we already net things there.
Yep.
Yep. And then we're about to see another menu here. So this is going to be our first of our party formation swaps.
It goes real fast. And we're done.
Yep. So the nice thing about the party formation swaps, we're going to see a lot more of them later on. But unlike a lot of other Final Fantasies and a lot of other games, you basically always have access to whoever's in the back of your party. The party formation is only going to be the first 3 characters, or the people who are going to start the fight. We don't want Waka to be in the party for this year, because otherwise it does another tutorial. So we want to move him out. And the way that we have the party logic, the menuing logic set up, is we just say we want like these 3 characters in some order or whatever in the front of the party, and no matter what the input state is, the task will figure out what is the minimum number of inputs that we can use to make it so that that is true, and then it will do it. Which is pretty. That took way too long to program. Like way too long to program, but it works.
And one other thing
really
is,
fast.
We only care about those first 3 slots that represent the active party. Anybody that's in like the back party that could be swapped in later, they can be anywhere in the back party, and we just don't even care. We don't even calculate for that. We just get those first 3 in the front, and that's it.
Yep. So yeah, we're done with Besaid. We're off to do Yuna's pilgrimage. And now's a good time to talk about leveling. So.
Oh dear.
Final Fantasy X, the level system takes place on what's known as the sphere grid. And everybody is on this sphere grid, but every character starts in a different spot on the sphere grid. As you beat enemies, you get AP. That AP turns into levels, and the sphere levels let you navigate throughout the different nodes on the sphere grid. Each node can be activated by using a corresponding sphere of some kind. Like a power sphere can be used for HP, strength, or defense. A mana sphere can be used for MP, magic defense, or
magic stat.
Magic plus, yeah. Magic stat. And a lot of the run, so if you're playing this casually, each character, is going to kind of stay in their own spot of the sphere grid. They're going to learn some things. You're going to be doing a lot of grinding. We don't do basically any of that. We go across the sphere grid as we please, picking up the stats that we want, and we're also like incredibly under-leveled at many points in the game because grinding is slow, and we're speedrunners. We want to go fast.
Very, very fast.
Very fast.
So to do that, instead of following the sphere grid the way that each character normally would, we're just kind of use key spheres, which unlock lock nodes, key, lock, in order to break out of the predetermined paths and go to places we're really not supposed to be.
Or at least not supposed to be for the points in time that we're there.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, here's Veil 4, and we're about to use one of Veil 4's overdrive, the one that we went our way to get, the Kamehameha Wave.
This is why we talked to the good doggo back in Besaid.
Yep. And it does a lot of damage. And it's going to kill this infid very dead. But then, in a cutscene that we don't see, Titus gets knocked over the boat. And
oh dear.
now he's underwater.
It would be a shame if he couldn't breathe underwater.
So, this fight's also honestly pretty simple. Titus is going to be using a new ability he got called Cheer, which increases everyone's attack and defense by 1. Or strength and defense, I guess, by 1. We're going to be using it a bunch. Walk uses Dark Attack so that we stop getting hit, and then we're just going to kind of wail it. And so one thing that actually bothers me about the CSR is that in the cutscene right before this, we see dolphins. And I don't understand why out of all the natural animals that are here, there are dolphins. Because we don't see normal animals like earth animals anywhere else. It's just in the scene and it's just the dolphins. I don't understand.
Yeah, there's an occasional bird or something, but yeah, it's very sparse with the fauna.
Yeah. So we're actually going to be ending this fight by doing one of Titus's overdrives, the Spiral Cut. The way that the task knows how to use the Spiral Cut is there's another spot in memory that says, hey, the overdrive menu is active, like this mini game has started. After that, it is exactly 13 frames before the earliest point that you can select you can stop the slider and it will do a perfect overdrive. It might not look like it's a very first instance, but I tell you, it is. And with that, we get it every single time.
So I actually looked that up today. It's 12.
Oh, is it 12?
It's 12, but it's very, very
Okay.
precisely always 12, like he's saying.
Okay, yeah, it's very, very precisely 12. Yeah, I thought it was 13. I'm the one that even found out the number, but yeah.
A lot of
Exactly
trial
12.
and error. A lot of trial and error.
It wasn't that one. It was like half an hour. But yeah. Yeah.
And then
there,
I'm gonna look up.
done
I
with
did.
that.
I did the same
Yep.
thing for Waka's, and it's like 60 frames instead of 12 for his to get started.
Yeah. More animations on that one. So we've got more plot happening in the background. Not super important here. But now we're in Kilika. We've got, surprise, another temple to go to, because that's what a lot of this game is. It's running to different areas to go to temples. But we are going to be going to the Kilika Woods. So the Kilika Woods, there's a few things that we have to do here. First off, we're going to be getting a tutorial, which is about to start here, and this is the Lancet tutorial. Now, Lancet is technically an ability that anybody can use, but when a Ronso uses it, we see why the Ronsos are blue mages. Kamari, whenever he uses Lancet on an enemy that has an attack and ability that can be learned, he will then learn that ability himself. And it means that when he goes to use Overdrive, he can use that ability, use Overdrive and use that ability on whoever is being targeted. It will also immediately fill his Overdrive gauge, which is going to be very useful later. We're about to have another menu here, where we're going to be doing an equipment swap, and we're also learning one of the most important abilities, Flee, which will let us escape from battles.
It's a good one.
Battles are slow, and we want to go fast. Yep. So there's a few things that we need to do in this woods. There's a chest that we have to pick up. We have to charge Veil for his Overdrive, and we do have to get a certain amount of EXP, but that's pretty much guaranteed. One of the biggest things that we can get from this area actually are speed spheres. Speed spheres are going to be really important for increasing our agility, which is going to affect how often and how fast we move in battle. And over the course of the run, we need 17 speed spheres, and we need a total of 35 power spheres. The power spheres were guaranteed 25 of them, so we just need an additional 10 bonus. And here, we're going to be charging up Crimson's Overdrive.
Yay, Crimson.
Most of the fights in this area have an Overdrive charging strat, because we're going to need to use the Overdrive in the next fight. Do you want to go through a bit of the logic of how, when the task decides to do this stuff?
Yeah, and that's an area that we could actually still optimize, as I mentioned earlier. We got a few places like that. Is that because we already know what the RNG is doing, and we can calculate ahead, even if it's not the seed that we're running here today, we know what battles are coming up. So in theory, we could look ahead at the next, let's say, 3 battles after the tutorial that happened earlier, and say which of these 3 is the best for leveling, or for recharging Valifor. And then we go through and do the logics that's very specific to that battle. In this case, we kill off one of the bees, and then fight this plant-based monster until we're charged, and then it dies. Exactly. So in theory, we could say, of the 3, which is the best? Currently, the logic is instead saying, go until you find one that we can do, and always do that one until we're charged, and then stop trying to charge. So in this run, you saw we did that on the second battle after the tutorial. I have seen a few runs where we don't get a battle we can charge on for 5 or 6 or 7 battles, in which case we just straight lose time because we can't move on. It's a little suboptimal.
The speed spheres.
Oh, you are?
I know, I've not been. I should have been.
Sure.
I should be. Alright, so this is the next fight. This is Sin Spawn Gooey? No,
Jano.
Jano, yeah. And we're gonna summon in good old Crimson again, and he's gonna use his Kame House training to Kamehameha, the giant shell. The nice thing about this fight is not only do we get to use the overdrive, but Crimson gets attacked enough that we get to get the overdrive at the end, and we're just going to end this fight by killing it with fire, because that's generally the best way to kill most things, is just copious amounts of fire.
It seems like a common theme. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, like, you know, more fire, more good.
But yeah, it's very rare in a single fight where you get to use an overdrive and then recharge it. There's this one, and then there would be one later, but actually we should get a crit that negates that. But we'll see. Coming up on Dono incentive for Ifrit. Now, with Ifrit and Shiva, I want to say those could be optional incentives just because we never use those two Aeons, except in backup strats. So we'll probably leave it up.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we'll give the option.
We can totally do it. It's just if the event wants it or not. I mean, either way.
Yeah, we'll let them decide.
Alright, what do I have on my list? Well, the next thing I have on my list we've already talked about, which was manipulating Thunderstrike, and then trials are predetermined puzzles. So we'd probably throw donations here.
This is a great time for donations!
Yeah!
Oh, I should probably have a stream chat open.
It's okay.
Oh, actually, this is also a good time to talk about movement.
Yeah. So,
you want to go with that?
Yeah. At the current iteration, there have been a few iterations on how movement works, and some have been better than others, and what we've reached now is what we call the checkpoint system, which is basically where we know information about Titus's position in the game space, and where we want to go in the game space. It's an XY coordinate for each, and then there's an optional Z vertical variable. And we also know where the camera is pointing, which is significant because that determines what your controls are. Up is always up based on the camera, for example. Down is down based on the camera. So on and so forth. So, with those three pieces of information, Titus's position, the camera, and then the next place we want to go, which we're calling a checkpoint, we can then move from one place to another and then update the checkpoint, like increment the checkpoint to the next number, and then go to the next one, and then increment the checkpoint, and use this system to very precisely navigate through some very complicated maps in the game. So for example, right here, we're going to be navigating through a doorway, and then up a narrow hallway, and then to the left, down some stairs, around the edge, up some stairs, and so these checkpoints are dictating exactly where Titus is going based on where Titus is in current position. It's very precise, it's quite efficient, and we'll see an example later on in the game in the Makalania area where the precision is actually very valuable and sets us up for actually avoiding an encounter that we don't terribly want to do.
Yep, so here's the next one.
Shout out Inverted, who actually programmed that movement tech.
Oh, that I didn't even know you were using that name, so I guess it worked out rather well. The lead up into that.
I love it.
Yeah, so the checkpoints right now are all sort of manually programmed in. The way that Titus moves them is not, but we do have each position of the checkpoints put in. It would be really cool if we had a way to sort of extract a representation of a map and then just use a pathfinding algorithm, but we don't have a way of doing that yet.
Not yet.
So if anybody wants to help with that, feel free. All this code is on GitHub, by the way. All
the code.
Yep, so if you want to take it and run it yourself, you can. There is a sort of basic tutorial of how to set it up, and there's going to be a more thorough one that we should get done before the event actually starts.
Yeah, I think we can manage that, and also fix a couple of things that make it difficult today that would be easy to fix.
Yep.
If anybody wants to get into that,
menu, which we'll go into more detail later about that.
We'll have plenty of opportunities in Meehand and Mushroom Rock for the cure menu. If anybody wants to help out with this project and help to optimize it further, come find us on the Final Fantasy X Speedrun Discord or speedrun.com, the Final Fantasy X. It's linked from there, and you should be able to find us without too much difficulty. We try not to be hard to find. Eject shot.
Alright, so yeah, now we're done with Killick Island. Not much here that we're gonna be, not much else to do here. We're now on a boat. We're going over to Luca, and here's Awaka. Awaka's a traveling merchant. We're gonna bribe him a bit. We're gonna bribe him a bit because bribing him here is going to give us a discounts later on, which is gonna be important. The Gil route is actually like pretty tight because the primary way that you get Gil is by which we don't have. But this is a deck shot tutorial. It's a cutscene, reminiscent cutscene, and we kind of speed through it all because you can actually give the inputs before the prompts show up, and so the task just puts them in and goes on. This
very,
is
very
actually,
fast.
Yep. So this is actually, if you succeed in this, then there's a new Blitzball technique that you learn. But so in the non-CSR version of the speedrun, you don't want to succeed with the Jack shot because it's like an additional 2-3 minute cutscene. In the CSR version, you typically could succeed with it and continue, except that because it's meant to be as close to the normal speedrun as possible, the skip for that wasn't actually programmed in, so your game will just crash if you succeed with Jack shot. So don't try to succeed Jack shot.
Ever. Whether you're running the cutscene remover or not, just don't bother with the eject shot.
Yep. So we're running around a bit. We're trying to find. We heard that Auron is here. There's a big Blitzball tournament that we're participating in. We heard that Auron's here. Running around, can't really find him, and then gasp! Yuna is kidnapped. So now we have to go rescue her.
So we're gonna do that for a little bit. So this was one of the I mentioned earlier the seeds and the RNG values based on seeding it to a certain seed. This is one of the places where we kind of made a good or a bad decision based on what happened here, and it's based on the ability haste. So however much ability points or AP or levels that we've earned to this point is going to dictate when we learn haste throughout the next series of battles. And if we learn it before the Blitzball game that we have to play, that's considered acceptable. But we can actually learn it even sooner before the next boss coming up just now, which is highly preferable. Well, somewhat highly preferable. Let's just say highly preferable as far as considering it possibly a good seed. And so that was one of the criteria here that dictated whether we were going to choose a seed and continue evaluating it further into the game or not. Was that early haste is what we call it, what I called it.
Yep. We're fighting a bunch of robots here because the Al-Bhed are the only ones in the world that basically use machines, because the machines are considered heresy according to the Church of Yevon, which is, the church that kind of just controls the entire populace because reasons. And machines tend to explode if you give them too much electricity. So Lulu's just going to be raining down thunderous wrath upon them.
Electrical terror.
Yep. This is more or less the last fight, or the last series of fights where Lulu's actually going to be useful for more than just item spamming.
Yep. So right here we learn that early haste, which is before the series of 6 machines instead of just series of 2s. So this is the earliest that we can learn in the task. In theory, we could go maybe a fight sooner. I did look at that at one point, but we basically waste time earlier to get extra levels to do that. So this is the earliest that it's reasonable to learn haste. And what would we be doing here if we didn't have haste?
So because we have haste here, we kind of just can haste Lulu and have her thunder spam like crazy. If we didn't have it, then we would be using Titus and Kimari in order to clean up the machines in a couple of the waves, like using Overdrive Seed Cannon, stuff like that. But because we don't need to do that, We just gotta spam defense and let Lulu kind of clean everything up.
It's definitely the easier of the two strats as compared to having to do some very precise attacking with Titus and Kimari, and hoping for a crit, and then not getting a crit, and then so on and so forth.
There's a lot more to keep track of.
Yeah.
Haste is really, really powerful, it turns out, because the more actions that you can do in a turn-based battling system, generally the faster things go. It's a crazy thought, I know. But,
small optimization here that I need to program is to use a potion there instead of hitting the
you
save
can't.
sphere.
So if you use haste, you have to use the sphere.
Oh,
otherwise
that's
you don't
true.
have mana. Yeah. So this is the Obliterator fight. This is a bit of a puzzle/cheese fight. You can kill the boss just by attacking him. That's going to take a really long time. He's got really annoying counterattacks. So instead we have this crane. The crane is off right now, so how do you charge it up? By throwing copious amounts of electricity into it, because that's how machines work. Sometimes they blow up, sometimes they don't. The interesting thing with this, though, is that the way that the game is programmed, the only thing that will actually charge up the crane is Lulu's Thunder. If you're playing a randomizer, you've hacked anything else, Titus Thunder won't do it, Kimari Thunder won't do it, Lulu's Thundara or Thundaga also won't do it. Literally, only Lulu's Thunder will charge up the crane. Once that's happened, we're going to kind of rip its head off. Here.
Bye, head.
And goodbye. And then we're actually not going to be ending the fight immediately because of...
RNG manipulation!
Yep.
And I'll talk about this more during Blitz, but the short of it is that we're waiting until the RNG is just right to give us kind of about a 70% chance to get a really good Blitzball, or just an absolute garbage Blitzball. We'll find out here shortly. I did some testing on it today, and it's even like, if you program it a very specific way, it's still not consistent, because the same RNG value, just the one value, that's used for all of the Blitzball logic is also just used for animation randomizing throughout a battle or other scenarios. So it's very inconsistent, which is very frustrating as a programmer.
Yep. So we're about to start Blitzball. It's honestly a pretty fun minigame casually.
This looks good.
In the speed run, it's kind of awful though, because we really want to win. Because in this story game here, if we win, we get a strength sphere, which is going to be really nice. If we don't, then we lose out on that strength sphere, and we can't use it to get 4 strength later on on our sphere grids. You can finish the run without getting it. It just costs 2 to 3 minutes. So ideally, we just win and we don't have to worry about it. That being said, we do have rather nice strats that work here. The RNG that Wilson was discussing, the RNG2, is used for a couple things. One, it's used to determine the enemy AI actions. The second is that it's used to determine what's happening animation. So basically, anytime there's an animation playing on the screen, it's going to increment. It makes it practically impossible to track. But we do have general strategies that tend to work for Blitzball. One of the things that we did with the RNG2 was make it so that we're going to get the ball first. There's a timer in the bottom right, and the game lasts for 2 rounds of 5 minutes. The rounds go at a rate of 2 seconds per second, which sounds a bit weird, but it makes sense if you just look at the time and look at the watch. You look at your watch. The only time that the timer doesn't increment is when there's a menu open. The character is deciding to do something. If the opponents get a hold of the Blitzball, or if they constantly are aggroing onto us or blocking and stuff like that, that's just a lot of time that's being spent not progressing here. The enemy AI also, if we are ever ahead, decides to go extremely aggressive, and Keepa, who is our goalie, is a really, really bad goalie. This is really bad. So
his career decisions are quite questionable.
Yeah, he's actually much better as, like, not a goalie. So much better is not. So what we're doing in the first half, we pass Titus. Titus is passed back because we need to get some experience on Titus. Then we take the ball and we just kind of hide behind kicking Keepa all the time because we're outside of the aggro range for any of the enemy players, the Luka goers, and so we don't have to worry about them getting to us and trying to steal the ball.
Well, let's say most of the time, because there is somehow a scenario where Grav will just kind of forget that he has a radius of aggro and just go for you from across the map. It sucks.
That is also true.
That specific scenario happened during the SGDQ run earlier this year.
Yep. So now we're in the second half, and the second half is actually done a bit differently. So as opposed to just being a contiguous 5-minute half, we're actually there's actually going to be a sort of a cutscene in the middle of it, a 3-minute part, where we're going to be replacing Titus with Waka. What that does is it will also reset the aggro if we're ahead. The enemies just kind of forget that they're losing the game. So we're going to be moving around and manipulating in really specific ways so that we can try to score with Titus at precisely the 3-minute 1 second mark, so that not only do we skip the mini cutscene of the Blitzball going back into the play, but we just kind of go straight into having Waka and nothing else happen. So if it works out, it's going to be really great.
Yeah, we basically replaced the whole, okay, we scored, now you get the ball thought process with, hey, there's storyline happening. You don't get the ball, we have to do the story. And that's the way that we kind of skipped that little mini scene.
Yep. So we're very shortly, we're going to be just making our way across the map.
And I think, yeah, they actually get out of the way right there, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, that's good. So we're going across here again, and we're going to be trying to draw the defenders in to get them away from Titus.
So that defender is the one right here if you're looking at my screen. And then they're away, so Titus is basically alone in the clear, and this looks really good. Oh, it's maybe a second too early. We'll see here in a second. It's like a half of a second early.
Oh, wait, yeah.
The precision there is really, really tight. So this is the blitz off that we see, and then we immediately go to the storyline. If we got the timing perfect, we would not have seen him reach up and grab the ball there. Instead...
Yeah. And the task usually is more perfect than a human can be, because you usually don't even see the goal message happen. It just kind of fades to black as the ball's going in.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where everything can go off the rails, because we can't control what, like, the RNG at this point. And so they got the ball, which means there's going to be a lot of kind of waiting around and hoping that they don't score and all this other stuff. And ideally, we just get the ball again, and we don't have to worry about anything, but that didn't happen, so this is going to lose us. And there's not really anything that we can do about it. The nice thing is this is a good example of the desync resilience that this task has over normal tasks. So in most tasks, it's always expecting the exact same thing to happen, and if at any point something in the game occurs that it wasn't expecting, the task is going to desync and the entire run is dead. Because in this, the way that we have the program, it's not doing specific things, thinking there's going to be stuff happening on screen. It's actually analyzing what's going on, what the different memory values are, what the current state of the game is. It can basically always, as long as we've written the rule for it, it can adapt and figure out what needs to be done in order to progress. So basically all of that stuff where it's like, how do we ensure that we get the ball? How do we know to pass it back? When we have the ball and we're safe, can we go hide? All that stuff, the program figured it out on its own and was able to finish playing the game. Which is not something that a normal task would have been able to do, because passage report you can't do any RNG minute or expect anything to be consistent there. And there we go, we won Blitzball. And we got the Strength Sphere, which is going to be really, really important later.
Yeah. So in that specific case, we had 2 times where we won the blitz off, and then the third time where we lost it. Just losing it there and having the game basically playing for us for about a minute, we lost about a minute's worth of time on the speed run. If you're looking at the timer, you can see that we're about 40 seconds behind the last split. And that's still fine because the run has not died. So, strength spheres.
Well, yeah. So these we've now been attacked by sin fiends, interrupting our sporting events. How rude! This is actually a really good spot for us to get power spheres. Each of these sag hands guarantees drops 1, and any of them that we overkill are going to drop 2 instead. So it's a really good spot in order to pick up the power spheres. You swapped over. Did you find the new Garuda code again, or no?
And I was muted. Not yet. I worked on getting all the things that are actually broken done first, and I have that on my backlog of to-dos.
Oh yeah, Sagham Chiefs, sure. Right, so there's going to be a fight upcoming. We're going to be getting Arn back again. The strat that is displayed isn't actually the optimal strat. There was a bit of an issue during our code merge, and the optimal strat was lost, so we just have to either find the old code that I wrote, or I have to rewrite it again.
Yeah.
It will be fixed by the time of the event.
Before Titan came onto the project, and I was in like generations 1 and 2 of the project, the entire strategy for that fight was if first of all you set up so that you do a power break and a dark attack, and then from then on, if turn, then attack. Very simple logic, didn't take into account the different characters that are available and how much they deal damage for and what the boss does in response. So it was very, very simple logic, and some of that has still bled through to today. So here's the fight that we are talking about. So instead of doing simple logic, go ahead.
Yep, so one of the really nice things with the use of haste there that it showed, because of the way that the party formations work, characters can kind of be in whatever scenario, and that your up and down and left and right can change depending on where the game has decided to put your camera at. We don't have a general way of knowing where each of the characters is going to be at any point. So what the task does at that is, like, alright, I need to haste Auron. I'm going to try haste, like, targeting this slot. Is that Auron? Great. If it's not, well, I'm going to try this other slot instead. And it will just keep on going through, cycling through the options until it finds who we're looking for.
Yeah. Even if it finds an enemy, which means you press the wrong axis of direction, it will still acknowledge, oh, well, this is an enemy and I'm looking for a friendly. Let me go back one and then switch the axis I'm looking on. So even if, like, the camera turns and changes, it still does not break and does not fail.
Yep. And so now we got Auron again. We're going behind here. We're picking up a couple of random items that are going to be really useful. We also learned in this cutscene that apparently Sin is our dad who abandoned us 10 years and 3 months ago. But yeah, minor detail. Not really important. This is a speedrun. Who cares about plot?
Yeah, we don't need that. Oh, by the way, affection.
Yep. So this is one of the largest differences between the CSR version of the run and the non-CSR version. So throughout the game, in the normal speedrun, you want to be talking to Auron enough times in order to increase his affection. What the affection does is there's a cutscene later on in the game that whoever you have the highest affection with will determine who you take this lovely, chilly, romantic ride on a snowmobile with. And Auron's cutscene is the shortest. However, because we don't have cutscenes enabled, we don't ever need to talk to Auron. Because we just skip all the cutscenes anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right. It is not a slower cutscene because it is not a cutscene with the remainder.
Yep. And now Auron's in our party permanently. He's got some useful stuff associated with him. Primarily right now is he's got piercing. But now we're in the old road, or sorry, in High Road rather. Me and High Road. We need to remove that menu. So we're going to be running from, like, basically all the battles here. There's one thing that we do need, which is we need to find a bomb so that Kimari can learn self-destruct.
And a bomb is a type of fiend in this case, not an actual explosive.
Yes.
Well, kind of an explosive bomb. So, yeah, that... And then in a later spot, we're looking for a basilisk enemy. Between those two spots, these are two of the places where if you do not get the encounter, the task considers it a hard hold before moving on until you get it. So this is one of the places, well, coming up here in a little bit, where you can actually effectively lose a run because it takes far too long to do if the RNG is bad. And that's one of the reasons why we do a set RNG for, let's say, marathon safety or your viewing pleasure. Because we know that there's one coming up here, and then again later on we won't have any issues finding it there either.
Yep.
Donos.
So some of the fights here can actually put Titus to sleep, or otherwise incapacitate him. The way that... So we don't want to take these fights, right? And Titus does have rather high agility, but he's not always guaranteed to go first, and in fact, as you see here, there's an ambush. So what the task will do is, if Titus is alive and he's able to do things, characters are going to defend until it's his turn so that he can flee. If Titus is somehow incapacitated, instead the characters are going to individually try to escape. Because as long as one person has escaped, doesn't matter if everyone else dies, it's not a game. And since that was an ambush and we did take some damage, we got a big chance to see the cure menu. So, outside of combat, Yuna, who is the white mage of the party, can cure whoever is damaged. And since we know how much damage can potentially come into us, we have to make sure that we heal up to at least a minimum amount. So, if we are damaged and we need to heal, we go in and we heal only the characters who need to be damaged until they're at full HP. Because different characters have different amount of HP, so they could be cured a different amount of times. Task doesn't matter, Task knows exactly how much to do, and it's only going to do that character. So you saw there, Titus is only to be healed, so it used cure twice until it was at full, and then it exited out. Really fast, because again, task menus.
Bones, old man.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
Let me check my notes.
This is a good time for a couple of donations.
A few donos
Until
here,
the next
yeah.
boss. Talk about Foxy's run parallel.
Hey, I'm a
Yeah, for
guardian
sure.
now, so watch out.
Thank you.
And Titus is asleep. So, okay, I know that I said that they're going to escape. But this function actually doesn't check for sleep yet because I forgot to check that bit. It checks for everything except for sleep. But that's
Death,
something that
petrify,
will be
confusion,
fixed.
not
Petrify,
sleep.
confusion, berserk,
Yeah.
like all of those stuff. Checks for all that. Doesn't check for sleep to fix that. But that'll be fixed by the time by the time we do the marathon.
And here's the bomb encounter. A couple things we can talk about real quick is either what kind of went down in Luca pertaining to Seymour, or we can move forward towards the Chocobo Eater.
I'll be
Seymour
right back.
doesn't exist yet. Seymour does
Sure.
not exist in the CSR run until GUI.
But he's totally a good guy, isn't he?
Nope.
I don't know.
So actually there, we did get to see sort of the very, very fast character switching and targeting that can happen. Because again, we're doing this at task speed. We can pull up the character swap menu, swap out at the character basically before you can recognize that it's happening. We can also target enemies with, again, a 2-frame delay between each of the enemies. So that's, 2/30ths of a second. So basically before you can actually realize that you're targeting something else, the task is already continuing on. Also, this is one of my favorite parts in CSR. We run, take a step back, and suddenly a ton of items!
Woo,
Because
free
there's
stuff!
actually a cutscene here that gets removed. But we've got a really difficult boss coming up here, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's a super, super dangerous one, too. So, remember, so haste is really powerful? So we'll start by hasting us. Wait, hold on.
What? I might have to go back and check the code on that. That doesn't look right.
Yeah, I mean, why it hasted the boss. I thought we fixed the targeting logic for this. I mean, we
Man.
should. Oh, but we're just defending. Oh no, Titus is dead, and we've been knocked off the cliff.
Well, now
Oh,
we're dead for sure.
no! Yeah, so that in case you couldn't tell by our amazing acting, that was all planned.
We're famous, by the
So-
way. Famous actors.
Yep. So the Chocobo Eater can push you off the cliff, and that's what we want to happen. So we haste it so that it has more chances to push us off the cliff. It's kind of a cheese boss. Like we can't realistically kill it, so we just let it knock us out.
Here are some extra bombs. In theory, we can get an encounter like this on the old road down here after getting knocked off. And so the hard stop is before we move on to the next storyline area, which is 2 maps forward. We will, if we haven't learned the overdrive of self-destruct, at that point we would then, instead of moving forward, we actually get into a loop of go back and forward until we learn the ability that we need to learn. So it can be a little frustrating. I think the worst I've ever seen was that it got something like 30 encounters before it found one that it could use. So
And that adds a lot of time.
it can really just blow up your run as far as trying to get a viable time.
Live and let live.
Is the latest push that you just did on GitHub?
Yes, I did that about 2 hours ago.
Okay, cool.
3 hours ago. I don't know. And it includes, I changed the Stone Breath to the Seymour fight, and Titus's Overdrive to the Windigo fight, so that logic is already there, and that should fix the unit underlevel problem we had yesterday.
Yep. Sounds good. Alright, yeah, so we're about to get into the Mushroom Rock Road.
Yep.
If this was not CSR, there would be another skip that we're doing here, but we're just going to ignore it and continue on.
We'll demo that and the other skips at the end of the run.
Live and let live.
Kind of a showcase, possibly incentive for the end of the run. And we can discuss that later. So, what about the battles in this area? This is the one place where we're going to be grinding for some levels, so how do we do that?
So there's a few things that we need to get out of this location. The first is we need a minimum amount of levels on Yuna, Kimari, and Waka in order to proceed. This is one of the basically the only place in the game where we specifically wait and grind for experience. Ideally, as you see here, we get Fungar encounters because Fungars give the most amount of experience, which is nice. And we're going to be using Crimson's Energy Ray this time instead of the Kamehameha Wave in order to kill these really quickly. The thing is, we're going to need to use Energy Blast, like the Kamehameha Wave, again later in the next big boss fight, actually. So not only do we need to take this encounter, we're going to need to charge up Veil for again.
Yep.
Because
Side note,
of the... Yeah, go.
Energy Ray, we use that one here just because it's a slightly faster overdrive. Energy Blast does more damage, that's why we see it more frequently. And that's my note.
So, something that you'll see there, we use the Magic Sphere, which turns an empty node into a Magic +4 node, which is a lot. Magic +4 is a lot. But one of the cool things is each of the... there's a mini item menu that's, which kind of sphere you want to use. The task can look into the inventory, know what position everything is in, and figure out the minimum number of inputs to get there. Because there's more than just moving up and down. You can also scroll to the next window by hitting the shoulder buttons, and so on and so forth. So that's why you see like, oh, it moved up a window and then down one, because that's the minimum number of inputs, shortest amount of time in order to get there. Stuff like that's really cool. The Waka menu there, it technically is not the fastest. It was just easier to write it as a separate function because there's a logic check built into it as to when to call it, than it was to write 3 other functions to cover all the different branching paths. So could that be faster? Yes. How much time does it actually lose because of task speeds? Maybe 2 seconds.
Less than that. Less than a second.
Yeah, it's well, there's an extra quick menu in the sphere grab.
Yeah, but it's a very small amount of time loss that happens exactly one time, just so that we can make sure that Waka has the levels he needs. That's the exact reason for it.
Yep. And there you go. There's another formation swap where we swap 2 things this time. And so the nice thing is, because of the seed and because we get double Fungar encounters,
I'll be right back.
we're actually done with this area. So we can just leave. We can escape the rest of these. There's going to be a spot coming up near the Chocobo that if we still needed to grind some more, the task would know this and would keep on running back and forth until we got enough experience to proceed. But because we're just that good, and we got the good encounters, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we were a little bit ahead because of Kilika. Now we're a lot ahead just because of those very 2 specific counters that showed up. So we're back to that logic of run away. You may notice that we got a few ambush encounters earlier. That's still possible at this point. But coming up here, we're going to be doing a purchasing menu and selling some items in order
I'll
to...
get to that, and I'll get to that when we get to it.
Okay. But then we don't have anything to talk about now.
Well, it's like 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
either there'd be a donation or we talk about what Foxy's doing.
Yeah, for sure. There are some Crusaders named Luzu and Gata. They're not important to the speedrun. Don't worry about it. We picked up an item from that guy just as a safety strat to make sure we have enough gil in order to do the next purchasing menu, which I'm apparently not talking about.
Well, so we don't have to talk about it until we get too closer to it, because there's a lot of fights.
So easy on you
So,
next time.
like,
Yeah.
we can do it after the sphere grid.
For sure. Total donation time.
Yeah.
There's Gata. Ooh, there's a little clip there. I could maybe fix that. For some reason, getting onto this lift is far more precise than anything else in this area.
Yep, so... RPG Limit Break is a speedrunning marathon that benefits Nami. Takes place, I think it's in November? Wait, I actually know this
October.
October?
I can get the exact
Oh,
dates
better.
here in a sec.
I should probably get, like, tickets, hotel stuff.
October 16 through 22.
Yep. So we're getting Kamari some HP here because you kind of need it. Getting Yuna some more stats. Getting Waka some more stats. Or I think we already got Waka stats. So we've got a big sell menu coming up here. There's a really important item we're going to buy called Sentry for Oran, which is going to basically stop us from getting ambushed from now on. But I just want you to look at how fast the items are selling.
Monopolies are...
And again, this is all sort of determined on the fly how much to sell.
Which
And
items, how much, which slots they're in. All of that is
Yep.
determined very quickly.
Yep, and this is the fastest that you can sell those items. The items themselves are really quick. Blink and you miss the entire thing. The weapons, because they have the additional pop-up, do take a bit more time. Really fast. So here we go with Sinswan Gui. This fight's kind of annoying. We have to start with a power break, otherwise he hits us way too hard. And a lot of the other things that we're doing in this fight are just getting characters the experience that we need, or manipulating the turns so that characters act when they are supposed to. Kamari is going to be self-destructing here, and because of the seed and some manipulations that were done, it actually is a crit. That crit is going to save a lot of time. So now when Veil for overdrives, with the Kamehameha, Crimson overdrives, it should either KO or be like 100 damage off. And it means that we don't have to overdrive a second time. And
Yeah.
it's going to save the very long, like, oh, we have to recover after the overdrive, and since Magui's going to be attacking us the whole time. But yeah, so that just ends the fight. Not getting that self-destruct costs like 20 or 30 seconds maybe. So it's a rather significant time save here.
To put it in perspective, this seed compared to the world record run that was done by a human RTA, in the Mihan High Road, we lose about 50 seconds just in that one spot. and we gain almost all of it back right here because of that crit.
Yep. So here's Seymour, by the way, who, if we were watching cutscenes, we would have been seeing a lot more. He is a half Guado, half human, who is a maester of Yevon, basically one of the leaders of the religion, and he has a vested interest in Yuna for reasons unknown hitherto. But he's also really powerful, so we're just gonna use his Thundara to kill the second part of Sin's Wandery here.
Yep.
Because Yuna and Auron do not do that much damage to it.
Thundara over the other elements just because, again, it's slightly faster. That's it.
Yeah. So the actual, funny thing is, I always say this quip, but characters don't really have best names in this. It's just their species name. So it's Seymour Guado, Himari Ronso. I'm pretty sure if you continue on, it would be, Lulu Human, Titus Ghost. Oh, spoilers.
Yeah. Did we mention that we're going to be doing a few spoilers throughout the run? That might be important to kind of get out there.
Yeah.
It's only a 20-year-old game.
Is it really? Oh my god, it is 20 years old.
21 this year at some point. I don't know the exact month.
It can drink.
Yep.
Not something we should say on the stream, but it can.
So you saw there that we got this crit with Kimari. In theory, we could manipulate that. Again, that would be another one of those optimizations we could...
manipulate on any seed.
Could manipulate on any seed.
Yeah, in this case, it just happens to line up very well with everything we've done.
Yeah. So here, Jose, we're basically going to run away from battles, but we are looking for that one Basilisk I mentioned earlier. That will give us the Stone Breath Overdrive, which we are going to abuse like crazy. But the other thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to get pushed by a Chocobo, because Chocobos run faster than humans, especially Titus, who runs notoriously slowly. There's the Basilisk, by the way. So there's a Chocobo that runs up from behind us, and we actually know the exact positions that the Chocobo takes, point to point to point. So we match that with the checkpoints that Titus is going to move to point to point to point, and it lines up very nicely such that the Chocobo is going to push us along here. We did experiment for a little bit with trying to turn this into a skip. It was too far away to make that viable.
Yeah, there technically is a skip that is theoretically possible to do that has only been done with replays at 0.25 speed.
Yeah. So I put about 2 weeks of time into seeing if we could replicate that, and we get about it's a 0% success rating, but we get not even halfway close to it, about halfway close to where we needed to be pushed before we get pushed off to either side, just because the movement is not quite precise enough, even with a TAS, to get to exactly where we'd need to be perfectly pushed. It was very frustrating because I was literally changing it by one frame of movement one way, one frame of movement another way. Never got it. The logic is still in there somewhere, but it's just deactivated. Cut off for Ixion name.
Yep. So this is the Jose trial. This is personally my least favorite trial. I do not enjoy this trial at all. I don't know why I don't enjoy this trial. I just really don't. I find it very annoying.
I kind of feel like everybody finds it annoying, especially new players, because it is very non-intuitive what you have to do to make it work. Like with the other ones, like with the Ifrit trial, you have to burn things, and sometimes you're burning a glyph into the wall, sometimes you're burning a wall down, or a door down. This one is very convoluted in comparison, I feel.
Yep. Also, I'm just gonna get some water quickly.
Yep, no problem. And this is going to be another place that's pretty good for donations in the run. We are talking a lot here, but I'm sure that we would be able to step aside for donations basically on demand. So... Oh, I'm actually looking at that Sinspawn GUI split, and we didn't quite get back. Oh yeah, no, actually we got about 2 minutes compared to the world record back, and then some more. So we got a pretty good run going already. That would be comparable to world record pace. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so with this trial, the puzzle is basically you have to supercharge one of the orbs, which then opens the door. If it's not supercharged, it doesn't open the door, and you have no way of knowing that because there's no clues in here. Then you have to put the other 2 into this pedestal, which again, no way of knowing, no like special tutorials to explain this, and then only with 2 in here you have to push it into this thing, and it will float instead of falling down. No way to know that. And then you can jump across it and push the other one in, then jump back and then finish the puzzle. So it's really kind of a dumb puzzle because it's so counterintuitive what you have to do to solve it. I occasionally will pop into a new player or a newbie stream of somebody playing through the game just for fun, casually, and when they get to this puzzle, this is usually one of the ones that stump them for the longest time. You easily see people spend an hour in here before they kind of sort of figure out what they're supposed to do. It's just not great. Fortunately, the solution is the same every time, just like with the other ones. So, as far as speedrunning... Hey, welcome back.
This is an auto-scroller. So that's
I was just telling
at the time.
I was just telling everybody why this is such a horrible puzzle. So, yay.
Sure. Yeah, so it is almost over, thankfully.
So there was also the Destruction Sphere, and then I was wondering if you wanted to briefly discuss other summoners in the game.
I guess. So, one of the things that is happening throughout that, of which we see absolutely none of it, because, again, no cutscenes, because gotta go fast, is, Yuna is not the only one attempting this pilgrimage in order to become a Grand Summoner and, summon the final Aeon to defeat Sin. Her dad did it. There were a lot of Grand Summoners before him, and there's a lot of people right now that are trying to vie for it with their own guardians who are taking their own pilgrimages. We run into one here, Isaru. He warns us that summoners are disappearing, and we're just like, yeah, sure, we're fine. We're guardians. We're amazing. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to Yuna. Nope.
She's only been kidnapped
Definitely
before.
already been kidnapped twice. Right? Or once, rather. She's about to be kidnapped again.
Oh, spoilers, man. Spoilers. 2 decades old. Spoilers.
So, yeah,
and then there's Donna as well.
We're done with the Josei trial.
Yeah.
We're going to be putting in another name here. Rossi. Done a lot of work with the RNG manipulation and memory value finding.
Rossi is a freaking wizard when it comes to finding memory values. It's amazing what he can do.
Yeah, we're picking up some other items here. These items are mostly like for Gil, honestly. The remedy will be useful as a backup strat, but a lot of the stuff is just for Gil or like to use in the sphere grid.
Yeah, I might actually take that out. I might take that remedy out just because of the Stone Breath strat now.
That that is a good point actually. If you're doing Stone Breath here, you don't need that remedy ever.
Yep. So just something we can improve slightly on.
Yeah. So we're done with Josei now. We're on our way to Guado Salam.
Thunderstrike weapon?
Well, we don't have that.
Yeah. There's a boss coming up where if we had gotten a 1 out of 2 possible drops, which is a low chance anyway, we could go a little bit faster on with the next boss coming up. But we didn't get a Thunderstrike weapon for Waka or Titus, so we're just going to use the regular old strat on this seed. It's just one of the places where we traded off because the GUI fight was faster. This fight's going to be a little slower, for example. We will try to charge Waka here, which again is a little bit of a time save, but we'll see. Does this bot have logic in the in-game combat?
Oh, not even charged. That's surprising.
A question in the chat, does this bot have logic for the in-game combat ticks to plan way ahead? And not so much on the ticks, but we know enough about the fights from the way a human would run it normally, that we effectively program the fights the same way that a human would plan to do the fight itself anyway. So not so much on the ticks.
Fights, so it is theoretically possible. Literally, no one's ever done it.
Yeah.
We can't, and as Wilson described, we can't even get the task to do it. So part of the
Live and let live.
what am I going to say? Crap. What's it? Oh, right. So, especially the later on that you get into the game, and especially for bosses, we know exactly what their AI is. We know what all their stats is. We can plan everything out, and the fights more or less just become scripted encounters. So the bot, the task doesn't need to sort of figure out on the fly what the best way to deal with the fight is. We can just tell it what the best way to deal with the fight is, depending on what happens, because it's all edge cases that we've been able to route out, that we've been able to route before as humans. It's what we do in the normal speed.
In theory, we could apply machine learning over extreme amounts of iterations, but the game does not lend itself to that very well because extreme iterating does not take into account that this is a 3-hour run. You can't really iterate 3 hours very, very quickly. At least, not a way we found yet.
So, this is the Extractor Fight. This is effectively a Blitzerator Part 2. It's also an underwater fight. And as we've seen before, Titus and Walker are the only people that we have right now that can actually breathe underwater because they have invisible gills. As such, they're the only ones that we can take for this fight here. The Extractor Fight, it's relatively simple overall, but there are some things that we can do in order to try to save time. It has some really slow and annoying animations where it'll rise up and then fall back down. We want to avoid that. So we're going to start off by hasting both Titus and Waka, because the more turns that we have, the more damage we can do, the more things we can do. Then Titus is just going to be spamming Cheer, which is again going to increase our attack and our defense. And it should mean that our characters don't die, and we're just going to start doing a lot of damage. If we had gotten it should be fine.
I'm worried. This is the one where I'm still worried. We'll see.
If Foxy was doing this, he probably manipulated the lightning strike weapon onto one of them, which is going to make it a lot safer, and basically just like a lot faster, for everything to happen. That's Cheer number 4.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you see, that's why you don't have to immediately attack, because you get all the attacks off. Cheer's attacks off.
Still worried about Waka. Here it comes. Here it comes. Yep, he's dead. He's dead.
Jeez.
I told you.
It seemed like with this seed. And
it's very, very magical, except when it's not.
Yeah. Because that's something that, like, basically never happens.
Right.
Like, at all.
So I'm thinking there's 2 possible ways to get around it. The first is a safety potion. The other would just be, like, give him an extra 200 health earlier on, which...
No, that's going to make things harder later. Because
you have
to get the extra sphere.
So I'm thinking safety potion just for the seed. And it only did 920 damage there. Normally that would deal, like, 1,300 damage.
Yeah, and it would also mean that we would avoid this rising animation. So that's something we'll optimize for the submission.
Yep.
Because that looks like it's seed specific.
Yeah, we can add a little bit of logic there to say if this seed and all these other conditions, then use a safety potion. And that'll work.
Yep. And there's the Extractor Fight down. And we've also now gotten our final party member, which is the mysterious girl from before. Her name's Riku. She's really powerful, it turns out. As we're about to see in her first tutorial here. So Riku is useful for several reasons. For one, as we saw when we had her in the party before, she has both steal and use, which means that we can get items from the enemies, and it also means that we can use items, and they have usually a lot of really nice effects that we're going to abuse quite a lot. The other really nice thing is her overdrive, which is mix. Her overdrive is like the most busted thing that there is in terms. It can take any two items and mix them into a concoction that have very varied amounts of effects that are usually pretty busted. And before the current route that's being run, which we're calling Bahamut route for reasons that will become apparent later, the speedrunning route that was used was actually mix route, where it used Riku on basically every single fight since you get her. It's been routed so that we don't need to do that anymore. It saves a lot of time, but it still shows just how powerful her ability is, and we're going to be making use of it a lot, especially in the upcoming bosses.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Even now in the Bahamut route, there are fights where it is absolutely critical to have Riku, and she makes it possible. Has to do with, like, we are under-leveled, and we know it, and we counter it with her abilities.
Yep. So we're running up to Guadasalam. Not much to do here.
Lots of story
time.
that we skip.
Yeah. So in the non-CSR version of the speedrun, there's like half hour of cutscenes here. It's a great spot for bathroom break. Fantastic spot. In the CSR version, we're just kind of running through doors and then running back out of the doors, and it doesn't make any sense. But again, it's a lot of just sort of story progression that you would be doing. This actually is probably a good time to talk about exactly how the CSR works. Okay. So, effectively in the game, there are 3 flags of importance here. The first is the cutscene flag. Second is the story flag, and the third is the location flag. Whenever you progress through a cutscene or trigger another story thing, it will affect those flags in various ways, so the game knows what state we're gonna. It needs to put you out of after like the cutscene is playing. So what people have done, Gray Fox, it's like Gray Fox, Seraph,
Yep.
Crimson, probably
yeah.
Peppy, Rossi, etc.
Yep.
I don't have the fullest of names, but we'll have that for it. Is they've gone through and they figured out for every single cutscene what the initial value was and what the value afterwards is, and it effectively injects into the game like, oh hey, it's going to be doing this. No, instead jump ahead to the next part here.
Yeah.
And that's how we skip all the cutscenes. So now we're in the Thunder Plains. There's lightning strikes here. Want to talk about how we dodge those?
Oh, I would love to. This was one of my larger challenges as far as figuring out how lightning dodging works in the game's memory. Remember how earlier we said everything is a numeric value in memory, so a number somewhere there. So I was originally thinking, well, when we can dodge, there should be a value that goes from a 0 to a 1, so that it says now you can dodge, or vice versa, something like that. And then when you cannot dodge, it switches back to the other state, the 0 in that case. Well, I spent about a week trying to follow that hypothesis to its conclusion without any luck. What eventually happened is I was like, wait a minute, there is a book at the agency we're coming up on that has the number of times we've dodged lightning. And if it has it in the book, it has to store it somewhere in memory. So we can probably find that. So I went hunting for that, and sure enough, that value is there and fairly easy to find. And then the logic for the task is then we know what the value was, and when it changes +1, in this case, that's when we know we're ready to dodge. And then the exact logic, I think, is we wait 2 frames and then initiate the dodge. But by doing that, I got all of them except for 1 strike to dodge. And that is always the first strike because of how Python, the program we use, or the language we use to program this in, deals with the number 0. Instead of just being a digit 0, it also considers that to be the case false, which then messes up the logic for dodging the lightning. So I had to very specifically program for that first dodge, and then also for all the rest of them as a second line of code. But it was that idea of when it increments, that's when we dodge. That was the trick that got us over the hump on this one.
Yep. so we've got another shop here. Watch again, very fast. Kind of speed through everything. We're picking up a couple of empty weapons that will that will be useful later.
Yep.
And we're also picking up the yellow shield, which is going to be, again, really nice, really useful. The contents of how much we're buying in that shop are also determined based on the current state of the game, how many items we've used, how many spheres we're short because we can use extra grenades to continue things up.
Yep.
And for the rest of this area, it's kind of we need to get resources. The first thing that we need to do, which we just got, is a light curtain. It's going to be important for a fight later on. And past that, in the area upcoming, we need to both charge Riku's overdrive, and we need to get a certain amount of forages. Back when we were in Guada Salam, we picked up lightning marbles, which are useful, really good. We're
Lightning
also
element.
going to want to what?
Yep, those are for the lightning element. We also got
Yep.
bomb cores.
Yeah, we've got bomb cores from the mix tutorial, and we're going to be trying to pick up a fish scale, and an arctic wind.
To cover the water and ice elements that are coming up.
Yep. Another dodge of the lightning because we're just that good.
So good. So yeah, and what we're alluding to is that there's a boss coming up that will have one of the... Okay, that dodge, I know why I did that. One of the 4 elements there, and we need to counter it with the opposite element via Riku's overdrive. So that's why we need to pick up all 4 elemental items so that we can cover the cases. We will accept 3 out of 4 if we get super unlucky and don't steal all 4 of them. Because the stealing mechanic is kind of wonky on this one. As far as that particular lightning dodge that didn't happen, that's because we were coming out of battle, and it does not check for a dodge coming out of battle when it tries to open the menu and deal with what it needs to do in the menu. So that one was an edge case.
Yep. So now we're in the Macallania Woods. So normally we don't actually want to have Riku in the front of our party. Riku has extremely high agility, which means she's going to move before Titus normally does. So it adds on additional time, usually, before we can escape. However, there are 2 things that we're looking for. One is we are looking to run away with Riku. Or, sorry, to charge with Riku's overdrive. And a lot of the enemies here are actually faster than both Titus and Riku, which means that there's more chances for her to be attacked. The second is that we are also looking to steal with her here. So an ideal fight is we steal, and then Titus immediately runs away. We don't have to worry about party swapping or waiting for somebody else to come up or anything like that. We just kind of keep on going. What's going to happen if Riku isn't fully charged up by the time that we get to the first steal fight is Riku's going to steal, and then the other characters are going to try to run away. So that the attacks get focus fired onto Riku, will end the battle, and as long as one person escapes, we don't game over. So we should be seeing that here. We're going to steal the fish scales, and then we're going to escape, and then we're going to escape, and then our Riku's going to die, and this should fully charge her overdrive. And it didn't. Alright, that's fine, it'll charge up soon enough. Charge up soon.
Apologies, I had to step away there.
All good. I'm very used to talking into the void.
Yep. Professional streaming. Wait, what?
I won't go so easy on you next time.
Looks like we didn't get the full charge, but I heard we got a steal.
We got a steal, yeah. So we'll just get the full charge on
Fish
the,
scale got stolen. Okay, good.
So we'll just get the full charge on the Chimera fight.
So let me ask you a question. Which image in your mind would be more triggering as a Final Fantasy X player? A butterfly or a seagull?
Eagle.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
You know, it'd be real nice if you
I'll be
attacked
right back.
Riku instead of Titus enemies. Like, I'm just asking for a bit of cooperation here, not a lot. you know, it would be nice and helpful if you could cooperate with us. I know that you're trying to violently kill us because we're, you know, impeding on your natural habitat, but could you just work with us just this once?
Here's the Arctic Wind Steel.
And then individual escape. And Dara.
Hey, there we
Perfect.
go. Just while we're then finishing up this area, we're also working on a Nemesis run, where we, instead of going to beat the final boss of the game very quickly, we go beat one of the hard endgame bosses of the game reasonably quickly. I say reasonably because it's still like a 16-hour run. But hey, guess what? A task doesn't have to sleep, so that's cool.
Yep. And so here's the shot that we bribed Owaka for. We go in, we tell him that his prices are way too much money, and we go back in and we buy a Sonic Steel. Sonic Steel we haven't actually equipped yet. Oh no, we did equip actually.
Yep.
It's really powerful, it gives first strike, which I'll explain a bit after this next fight, which is the Spheromorph. So, as we've been alluding to, a Spheromorph will cycle between different elements, and the thing is we don't know which element he's going to start with.
Yep.
So, the other thing that we're going to be doing in this fight a lot is using everybody's like turns so that they get the experience they need. We use Riku for the grenades so that we find out what the element is. It's water. What's the opposite of water? It's lightning. Riku died, so now we get to improvise and undesync by throwing a Phoenix down. And didn't attack Riku this time, so perfect. And again, that's something that, like, it's programmed in, the task would be like, oh hey, Riku died, we need to continue. And yeah, that was the mix menu. It was really fast, because we know, like, the tasks can instantly go to wherever the items and needs are. And just mixes it up and kills the Spheromorph really dead.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the spots where we could technically cheat with the tasks. So, when a person's running, they have no way of knowing what the Spheromorph's element is. It's something that's controlled by RNG2, which, again, increments, you know, practically every single frame. It's not something, like, whenever an animation's going, it's not really possible to realistically control what's happening.
Yeah.
However, since the elemental weakness, like the element that Stormruff currently is known in memory, we could just peek in and do that and immediately go for the mix. There are two things with it though. One is the grenade damage actually does help guarantee an overkill. So we want to be on the safe side. The other is we've kind of very explicitly made the task not cheat in that way. It's doing everything that a person would do, it's just doing it with tasks like movement speed.
Yeah. That was a criteria that we added in after, I think, Generation 1 of the project, because when we started reading from memory, we realized it was possible to write to memory. But that is then cheating, like you said. So that's where that came in, is a criteria that was added to the original thought process on why we wanted to do this in the first place. Make it as any percent like as possible, as if somebody was actually running it with their hands on the controller.
Yep. So this is one of the first instances of us sort of going outside what each individual character is doing. Riku's like I said, 15 minutes ago, one of Riku's basic things was that she has steal and use, which means she can steal items, she can use them. We just taught that to Kamari, so now we've got 2 characters that can do it, which is going to be useful in the next fight, Crawler. This fight's rather interesting. So it has a negator, which is going to stop magic from happening. We have to kill that, because otherwise it's going to be really annoying. So we're going to throw a lightning marble at it. And we're going to, again, go with the whole machines are weak to electricity thing, and we're going to throw more lightning. However, every time that we do so, it's going to counterattack when it's assault, and that's enough to KO Riku. So we can do the same with Kamari. Kamari's tankier, though, so he's not going to die.
Oh, he's actually low health.
It should still be fine.
Should be fine. Yep, perfect.
Yeah. And then we have Lulu in here, and Lulu is going to be resurrecting Riku. Every time that the counterattack happens, we get to charge up our overdrive some more, and it's going to be charged full here, and then we can mix again and blow this thing up the same way that we did Sphero.
As a side note on this fight, we're about to use the mix screen again, so watch very carefully how incredibly fast this goes, right there. For a human player to do that same thing, they would have to navigate through that menu at least a few commands to find the two items that you're trying to mix together, which usually takes a few seconds. So whereas the task does it in about a second's time, a human would probably take 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds to find the two items that they're looking for. So just in the ability to input commands very quickly and know what commands we're inputting, the task has an advantage here.
Yep. So we're making our way to the Makalania Temple. There's another skip that, if this was not a CSR run, we would be doing here. That will be showed if the incentive is met and accepted for the skip show-off at the end. But we're about to fight Seymour because, in case my sarcasm wasn't apparent before, he's a bad guy. Because actually, I did forget to say this before. He did propose to Yuna, and wants to marry her and wants her to stop with her pilgrimage. But Titus is, being a typical anime protagonist and doesn't realize that he actually has feelings for her. So he's like, I don't like the Seymour guy. I don't really know why. It's because you're jealous.
Right.
Yeah. So this is also where we're going to be using the strength sphere that we got from winning Blitzball. It's going to turn this empty node into a strength +4 node, and I know that strength +4 does not sound like a lot. It is a large amount in this game.
Very much a large amount.
Yeah, it significantly changes most of the strategies that happen from now until the end.
Yeah. So between that and we've now moved Titus, or Titan in this case, into Orin's sphere grid, we are just learning strength +4 after strength +4 after strength. He's getting real buff.
Yep. Titus decided, I've coasted on my talent too long. I have to start working out, go to the gym, get swole. Alright, so now we've got the Seymour fight. This is actually a fight that's been recently redone because we're going to use Kimahri's Stone Breath. The Stone Breath is really great, really powerful, because it will effectively end any non-boss characters that are in a fight. Start by... Oh, right, so the Sonic Steel gives Titus first strike, which means that he will always be moving first in a fight. On
this fight, we take it off, so that
yes,
it messes up with the turn order, so we start this one with Brotherhood now. That was changed this morning.
That was just changed, yeah, with the Stone Breath strat.
Also, we would close the incentive here for Ixion. Ixion is one of the Aeons we do use.
Not
so
Ixion,
that would be
Shiva.
Let me correct myself. Here we would close it for Shiva if that's one of the ones we choose to do. She is not an Aeon used in the run.
Yep. So that's phase 1 of the fight done. And now we have Anima. Anima is Seymour's personal Aeon, who's also his mom, because that family has problems. One of the big things that was discovered is that he committed fratricide. Really healthy there. Probably should have gone to Nami at some point. Anima is an Aeon, and Anima has 2 moves. She'll either use Pain, which will Oko anybody in our party, or she will use Boost, which will charge her back up, and will also make us deal a lot more damage. Titus is really swole. He talked, which increases strength. He's got haste. We want to be smacking with him as much as we can. So we move him out of the party. We let poor Waka take the fall. We're using Kimahri and Riku to steal because his silence grenade is going to be really useful later.
Yep.
And there we go. That is Anima down. Now we've got phase 3. And we very specifically left both Titus and Riku alive here. The reason is because Seymour's AI will always cycle between the elements. First doing Lazara, then Multi-Thundara, then etc. And the yellow shield that we picked up when we put onto Titus during the Spheromorph means that the Thundara isn't going to actually harm Titus. But it will recharge Riku's Overdrive. And it's basically a free way of doing it, and again, it's going to be useful later on. And yeah, there's Shiva, but because we did just, kill the leader of a race and also a leader of the church, things aren't really going to be going swimmingly for us for a bit, so we're kind of trying to escape now. And this is the Makalania Temple auto-scroller, where, honestly, this puzzle itself is fine. It's really easy. The problem is at the very end, because when you go up on the ramp after you reconnect the bridge, there's a reset panel that shows up. And that reset panel, because of the way the camera works, whenever there's a camera shift, the game will, even if you don't adjust your joystick, it will keep on moving you in that direction for a bit to give you time to adjust. If you go a bit too far after you get up there, you'll touch the reset switch, and you have to redo this entire puzzle over again. And when I was playing this casually the first time, I had to do this puzzle 3 times, because I kept on walking on the reset switch, so I already finished it. It's not very fun. Bad choice of logic there, game.
Like, they could have put it in somewhere that was so much safer and easier to step on or choose not to step on, but they didn't.
Yep. Yep. But thankfully, this one is rather short, so not much more that we have to do here.
Yeah. Compared to the one in Jose, this one is a cakewalk. And then coming up after this is going to be the escape sequence where we have to run around that curved road in reverse from what we saw earlier. That is where, if we have very precise movement, we will not get an encounter, and in all of my experiments, I have not seen it happen in the current generation of that movement. There's a little switch that is kind of dumb. But if we have even slightly less than optimal movements coming up here, we will get an extra encounter, which loses a significant number of seconds. I don't know exactly how much it is, but it's enough.
It does. It has a lot of effects on things, on different things. Like, it loses time in it. It also affects some of the RNG manips that happen later on as well.
Yeah.
Like, it has an excise effect and everything. Those can also be merged. I thought I merged on at one point. It might have been lost during push.
Yeah. So here is the movement
we're
here.
Running. Run, Titus, run! Just keep running.
Just keep running, just keep running. And you'll see
You know,
here, the Guado on the left
life
actually
is
shows
like a
on the screen.
Life is like a box of power spheres.
Oh my gosh. So you saw the Guado show on the left of the screen for just a moment there, and then actually we were running fast enough to get him back off of the screen. That's kind of the indicator that we are on track to not get that extra encounter. So just a little fun thing there. This screen is just random encounters, same as everything else, so we can't really avoid them.
Yep. And so now we're coming to the Windigo fight. We get to, again, do an adjustment because of the overdrives
Get
that
out
we've
of
had.
the way. I'll be right
Old
back.
version of the route did not have us. Yeah, had us use Spiral Cut on Seymour, but since now we're using Stone Breath there, we can use the Spiral Cut on the Wendigo.
And I'm excited to see how much time it saves, because the Seymour fight was 4 seconds faster than the previous PB. So, same seed, same-ish RNG, 4 seconds faster already. So, but this is where we actually save the time. Light curtain so the Titus doesn't die.
Yeah, the Wendigo hits like a truck. Aside from that, the only things that really need to happen is Yuna needs to get AP from this fight. And if Lulu can get AP, that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Did she actually get her move off? I didn't see.
Yuna used a weapon swap, and Lulu here used a Phoenix down, so we're in a good spot.
Okay, I didn't see the weapon swap.
Does not matter even a little bit if Riku gets experience or not. If anything, her having a charged overdrive is more valuable than being alive.
Yep. So we are still reviving
Here comes.
Riku.
Here comes. Here comes.
Nice.
This should
So
kill.
we still do. Nice.
Beautiful.
So we still do revive Riku there because we want to minimize the amount of times that elixir is not needed.
Yeah, I took out that logic from previous version. I can put it right back in.
Sure. So we do want to minimize the number of attacks that Windigo can do to Titus because we just barely live. But anyways, we defeated the Windigo, the ice broke, we fell, we're now on Sid's back. singing the Hymn of the Faith, and now we've lost the rest of our party. We are now in the Bacchanal Desert. A short summary of what happened. Yuna's been kidnapped again. We're making our way to the home of the Al Bhed, where, you know, a lot of plot things are going to happen, but we don't really have to worry about it right now. The important thing to really keep in mind is for the next, you know, sections of the run, we've completely lost access to Yuna. We can't use her for anything. We don't even have her to heal or anything like that. We're just going without her. There are a few things that are to note in the desert. If we're behind on throwables, we do need a certain amount of throwables for some fights that are upcoming. This is the best place that we can to get them. If we're behind on power spheres or speed spheres, this is also a good sort of catch-up spot to get everything at. So,
and the logic already says that we have what we need for spheres, so it's just going to be throwables for this seed, for this run.
Nice. Yeah, so the again, this is something that the tasks will determine based on what the current game state is, what, if anything, needs to be done. And it will adjust on the fly in order to figure it all out.
Live and let live.
So we sold sleeping powders, then that should be all that we need. Because now we have 8 throwables.
Yep, the logic says a -2 still needed, so that means we have enough.
Yep. Oh, did you adjust the guards prioritization?
Yes,
item
that
usage?
should work just fine, especially since we have 6 of the silence grenades. That's kind of overkill, so we should be good.
Cool. Alright, so we're running. Riku actually, if you're playing casually, Riku becomes even more of an MVP here, because since we lost access to our white mage, they do introduce an item called the Al Bhed Potion that sort of acts as a cure-all, but we don't use it because we don't need to.
Live and let live.
We're just gonna keep on running away.
Yeah. Since this is a long section, I think during the marathon this would be a great place to do some donations. And also, I did this last night when we did the run, but I want to shout out 2 things for storyline purposes if you're interested in going deep dives in the story. The first is the Dan's Go 8 channel, who talks about a lot of stuff on his thing. He does things like 10 facts you might not have known. I think he did that one about Final Fantasy X, things like that, and just goes super deep into the lore. The other one is the State of the Arc podcast, State of the Arc ARC podcast, which recently just did a play along with us playthrough and talks about the story again in super deep detail. It was really amazing, like even into the artwork and the symbolism in the game. At incredible detail. It was phenomenal to listen to as someone who's been playing the game for 20 years. Even they came up with things I hadn't even thought about before. It was pretty awesome.
Yep. So bunch more fights and escaping from the fights.
I'll be right back.
Lots of running away.
The desert's super
Fortunately,
long.
It is pretty fast to do so. It's only like 10-15 seconds per fight. Not much that we can do about it for right now. That will be changing.
Live and let live.
Especially because Titus has the first strike. We can't ever get, even if we get ambushed, which we can't because of Orin, it doesn't matter, we can just continue on. And immediately sleep. So, we do have 2, or rather 1 fight that's upcoming. Used to be 2. But we're going to be doing the only skip that you can actually still do in CSR, which is Sandragora skip. So the Sandragoras are sort of in these pits, and they're guarding chests or just entryways. We're going to be going into this pit here because it has a chest that has 2 teleport spheres. And the nice thing with this one is we can just use Auron. He's been going to the batting cage recently, practicing his swing. So hopefully we can use it and hit a home run. Boom! Yeet him out of the park. And then coming up here, we're gonna have the Sandragora skip. So this was only discovered a few months ago. This next fight, the Sandragora, we used to Stone Breath, but since we now can do this skip, that's what opened up the stone breaths for. That's fine. That's not the actual fight. It's a random encounter.
No complaining.
Um,
I'll be right back.
so because we don't have to use the stone breath here, we effectively get an extra use of the overdrive. And we just go there, and Riku pushes us right through. That's not an area that you can actually walk on. If you tried to walk on it, it would force the encounter of the Sanjagura. But
Any
our party
movement?
members don't trigger this stuff.
It's
so she
any
can just
move-
push us right past.
Any movement that you, Titus, the main character, do, including just turning a different direction, will trigger the encounter if you're close enough to that thing. But being pushed through, apparently you have no momentum while you're being pushed through, so that's how it works.
This
Yep.
should be quick.
And then Kimari's overdrive here is going to become the MVP.
Yep, so Titus is going to go here and smack some Guados and bombs. The Guados are currently attacking the home of the Albed and trying to, like, do a genocide. Which is something that I feel like as a state you should not be doing. They're also here to kidnap Yuna because Seymour really wants to marry her. We don't want her to marry Seymour. So, yeah. we're just gonna kind of go through here. The Albed is run by Riku's dad, whose name is Sid. So, you know, no points if you guess what's going to happen as soon as we get out of here. What kind of vehicle we'll have. And also Riku is Yuna's cousin. So Sid is technically Yuna's uncle. So there's the first instance of us using Stone Breath to kind of end the fight here. And it's also a really good showcase of how Kimari being able to learn a new ability which instantly charges the overdrive. We don't even need to use that overdrive that we just learned. We can just use the one that we know is going to end the fight immediately. This is also a spot where if we had lost Blitzball, that we would be going into another room, fighting another encounter, doing a small puzzle, and we'd be getting friend spheres, which would allow us to make up for the lost strength. But because we won Blitzball, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, losing Blitzball, we know loses a literal 2 minutes or so.
2 to 3 minutes, yeah.
2 to 3 minutes, just on all the other things you have to do to back up the loss and missing out on that 4 strength. It also kind of can desync your run, so if you've got a run that's going great, but the RNG can, I guess, be changed a little bit because you're doing extra stuff. I think, I was looking at it, I think that's why my runs kind of go off the rails when we lose Blitzball. But, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Something weird
So yeah,
like that.
there's actually, this is one of the most important cutscenes because we find out that the final summoning involves the death of the summoner. So we've kind of been escorting Yuna to her death, and Titus is the only one that didn't know.
Yeah.
He's kind of stupid, and it really makes you feel really bad the whole time because, like, yeah, you're gonna do the final summoning, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna be doing all this sort of stuff, and it's like, no, I'm gonna be dead at the end of this. Thank you for reminding me.
Titus is kind of an ignorant jerk. He doesn't know he's being a jerk, but he's totally saying all the wrong things.
Yep. So we're running around in the airship because, you know, surprise, surprise. We are short on a couple of power spheres. So we're going to be doing this menu here, pick up a couple of distillers because we have a good spot to use them later. This does cost us like 12 seconds, mostly in actually talking to Rin there. Who is someone that, again, because of CSR, we've not seen before. But he's an Albed shopkeep that owns a chain of inns. But we have good instances later to use the power distillers and not have to worry about things. So right now we're gonna have the Evray fight, and this fight is kind of one of the most dangerous ones in the entire world. Part of the reason it's so dangerous is because we're significantly underleveled for this point. So
Woefully, yes.
woefully underleveled. We're doing a cheer here because we need the stats. But even though we're going to be doing another cheer later on in the fight, we're not doing it right now because we would then be doing too much damage and we would push Everett into phase 2 way too early. We're again using Riku's mixed here, Miracle Drink. It's going to give us all the ability to crit. And we're going to try to steal the water gems because it's going to make things better.
Got one.
We're doing another cheer here after attacking a couple of times because we can't overdamage too soon. And then do some more damage, hit some more times. That's going to trigger his HP threshold, so he's going to go into phase 2. We cast haste on himself, and if he attacks one more time, our entire party is dead because we cannot take poison breath damage. But luckily, because we get to attack one more time, we're going to kill just in time to survive.
No second steal. The other good thing that happened there is that Riku is charged again just by being attacked once. So that will be useful. We don't have to recharge it later.
Yeah, that'll make it nice. So we're doing another quick heal there. And now we're gate crashing a wedding because that's our wife, god dang it.
This is my story. It'll go how I want it.
So yeah, we're unfortunately, you know, the bouncers kind of don't want us gate crashing the wedding, so they're trying to stop us with, you know, force. But we're saying that. This is also the spot where we are sending in Riku, like we're using Riku and Kamari to throw stuff because it's going to be really fast to do so. We're using the power distillers on a couple of the fights because we don't need the ability spheres that they're giving us. Instead, we can just use the power spheres that they get. Doesn't really cost any time in the fight, and we get our guaranteed power spheres.
I did use 2 sleeping powders there. I thought it was supposed to use 1 sleeping, 1
It is
silence.
It
So
is.
I will check that later. Here we brought in Lulu just for a little extra experience.
Yep. Yeah, it's supposed to use 1 sleeping, 1. Sorry, yeah, 1 sleeping, 1 other.
Oh, and that's the one. I figured out why it's doing it, but I haven't reprogrammed it. The slot that it's looking at for the silence grenade is based on the use menu, not based on its position in inventory. And so it's kind of getting jacked up there. I know how to fix that. I will fix that later.
Okay. Yeah, because it's also doing this fight really weirdly. Because it was prioritizing bomb cores.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll fix it later.
Instead of the sleeping power. Yeah, instead of the
don't worry about
grenades.
it. Yeah. In fact, I think I can fix it.
It should be just like a list of priorities from what I recall.
Yeah, but it's based on looking at the wrong slot in inventory. That's why it's jacking up here.
And there we go.
And it should have only thrown
so
2
now
items
we've
there at the
successfully
end.
gate crashed the wedding, and we've also kind of become political enemies of the state. They are going to be trying to kill us very shortly. Turns out they're hypocrites. They have machines, even though the Albed are the... Yeah, I said this in the previous recording. But the Albed are the ones that are heretics for using machines. But instead, you know, it turns out the church has been using them the whole time in secret. So this is not really the last of the auto-scrollers, but this is the last major one. These are the Bevel Trials. Doing these both casually and in a speedrun setting are kind of awful. There's a lot of timed button presses that you have to do, quick play events more or less, that will send you through this maze. You don't have time to pause and think about it, and it's very much reaction based where you press the A, the confirm button, in order to go to the correct slot in the arrows. If you get it wrong, you can go down the completely wrong path, you can reset, you can go back. It's really bad. It's just not great. This is also going to be cutting off probably one of the bigger naming incentives, because the Aeon that we're getting at the end of this, Bahamut, is going to be the primary battle everything that we do for the rest of the game. So this one's kind of big. It's also, this is an interesting one. So Titus is a professional Blitzball player. He's really good. You would think he's really good at holding things with his hands, but he's only able to hold 1 sphere at a time. You know, he's got 2 hands. He can't pick up 2 spheres at once. Not possible. Only 1. bunch of auto scrolling here. Nothing much really. The annoying thing in terms of the task for this was that each of these directional arrows is actually composed of 2 memory addresses instead of just 1. So you have to check multiple things in order to know when to actually hit OK or not, then continue.
Okay, I fixed the logic, but I will retest it probably tomorrow.
Sure. We don't have to re-record for it. Just...
No, not at all. It was a totally fine backup strat. And now we've got plenty of silence slots for a thing later.
Oh yes, yeah. But also, this is a great time for donations because there's nothing for us to do.
Exactly. Yeah, this is definitely one of the top 2 worst trials. Well, I don't know. How do we feel about the Xanarkin trial? Because that one's awful too.
Oh, that one's fine.
Yeah.
No problem with that one.
This music is kind of soothing, relaxing, sleepy.
So there's something else that we haven't really mentioned, which are that the trials, most of them you can actually go back to again, and there's a destruction sphere that you can get that unlocks an additional reward. This is the only trial that requires you to get and use the destruction sphere in order to continue, because you cannot visit this place again because of plot. Again, we're about to become political enemies of the church state, and that usually doesn't end well for the enemies. Might cause some problems.
Yeah. I don't want this to get too dark, but I guess the question that is coming up here is, how do you deal with political enemies?
Yeah, I'll get to those jokes now.
Yeah.
When we actually get to it.
So just keep that in mind. This is effectively a very complicated taxi system. And it should go from here one more time off the edge and then back to the start and then straight to the end. I'm sure at this point we would also do some comparisons of the RTA and see how that's going. Yeah, the Tetris Temple is all in the player.
Sorry, I was checking notification.
You're good. This section's just really slow, auto taxi scroller.
Yeah, not really much to say.
It would be a great bathroom break time if it weren't for, all of the things that you had to press.
Yes. Alright, so we're basically done with the trial now, thankfully.
Yep.
And so yeah, the whole we killed a major church leader and head of a mini nation state. We crashed his wedding, tried to kill him again. So obviously the best way to silence these political dissidents is to shoot him into the sewer system and just kind of leave him there.
Ooh, something stinks down here.
Yep. So we're down here. We got Yuna and Auron with us right now, and Yuna, Yuna's seen the light. She realized that she should be with Titus, and she's been so inspired by Titus's workout ethic and commitment to get swole that she has also decided to become swole. And this is also our first instance of showing what we've been using the other characters to do whenever we need to get the levels, because we're not going to be using most of those characters. But because they start at different parts of the sphere, and we have things like friend spheres or teleport spheres that we can use to move, or return spheres that we can use to hop around to nodes that either we or our allies have already gotten, we can use those to effectively act as more experience levels, more sphere levels for Yuna. So she was really far away from all this section, but you're just like, Arin's nearby, and we can bring Yuna to Arin. So that's what we're gonna do. And then that's what we did.
Yeah. It saved about, what, 40, 50 movement for Yuna? Something crazy like that. So now Yuna hits harder.
It's a lot of experience.
I hate this place.
Yeah.
So, we're now going to be summoning Rossi. We do need to do a bit of experience grinding here, but it's stuff that kind of happens naturally. We need to kill a combination of 4 larvae and 4 YKT robots that are going to be in the next game. So we're summoning good old Rossi here because he's a giant lightning unicorn and he attacks really fast.
Some Mac. Oh yeah, Yuna works out, so everything that Yuna summons has also worked out.
Yep, so I'll get to that in the talk about
Yeah, absolutely.
The next fight. Some more. And smack. Alright, so we've got another series of boss battles here. This one's going to be against Isara, the summoner that I mentioned all the way back in the Jose Trials cutscenes I skipped. He's also a summoner, so it means that these are going to be one-on-one, mano-a-mano, summon v summon battles. If he has summoned an Aeon, we cannot summon the same Aeon. Because, you know, they can only exist once. But this is going to be our first instance of summoning Wilson, good old Bahamut. Who's the Aeon that we just unlocked from the Vivel Trials. Now, Bahamut is kind of broken. So, all the way back, I mentioned that Aeons scale in power with Yuna. But each Aeon scales a bit differently, and there are 2 types of scaling. The first is how many battles your characters have been in. The more battles you've been in, the stronger the Aeons will naturally be. The second is that different Aeons will scale off of stats differently. And for Bahamut, it's something for like every 1 strength that Yuna get, Bahamut gets 4 strength. Something along those lines. It's literally a 4x multiplier. So the more swole that Yuna becomes, the more swole that Bahamut becomes. And Bahamut hits like a truck. He is one punch Bahamut. He naturally has break damage break, limit break, break damage limit, yes. It is very late here. So he's naturally got break damage limit, which means he's not limited to 4 9s of damage. He can go all the way up to 5 9s, and that's a lot. This is also where we kind of see for the first part the power of the menu. So the very first menu that we did all the way back at the beginning was we set memory cursor to true, and we also changed this Aeon summon animation to short. So we summoned Bahamut twice, or we summoned Wilson twice. I can't use Wilson because you're in the call with me, sorry.
That's fine.
So we summoned Bahamut twice, and the first time we had a really, really long animation where he did this whole giant summoning nonsense. And from now on, you know, we don't have to do that because you only get the much, much shorter one here. Now, unfortunately, we can't actually use Bahamut to beat himself up. It's not something he doesn't like fighting himself for some odd reason. So we're gonna summon our good old Rossi Lightning Unicorn again. And again, this is mostly just because we've already summoned him for the larvae. He attacks really quickly, and we can use it to defeat Bahamut. In older versions of this route, before we did the Bahamut route, we would actually be using Shiva here, but that just ends up being really slow. it's a lot faster just to summon the lightning horse and smack everything in Bahamut.
Lightning horse go fast.
Yep.
And that is the Isaru battle.
Yep. And so we're also now, we're going to take the 3 people that can breathe underwater and are nationally known for being able to breathe underwater because they are sports stars that everybody has watched on the spheres, and try to kill them by throwing them into the underwater sewer system. Because that makes sense. For some reason. So, yeah. I don't think that the enemy... Look, the game's plot is fantastic. It's really good. It's really deep. The characterizations are great. They're sometimes a bit stupid, but we're just gonna ignore that.
Yeah, villains are not the most intelligent villains in any game series you've ever seen.
Yep. So we do have another boss battle coming up here. So this is our good old Ever Atlantis V2. You would think this would be really, really difficult, except this is actually a cheese fight. Because... Huh. Okay. Haven't seen that happen in a long time.
That's all good. It worked.
Yeah. I mean, so Titus doesn't need the AP here, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's a cheese fight. Since we killed him in the sky, he's a zombie now, and the way that you kill any zombie is by, trying to heal it. So we just throw, 2 elixirs and Phoenix Downs, and that's enough to kill him. After that, there actually aren't any more encounters, so we just kind of lazily swim out, and we're almost escaped from the giant church that's trying to kill us. We've almost gotten away. Not quite, though.
The church, the government, the authorities, take your pick. Wait, does this make us the bad guys? Yeah, probably.
I mean, when are we not?
It's not a good story unless, you get thrown in jail and called a bad guy at some point, right?
This is true. This is true.
But yeah, this would totally be a donation swim.
Yep. So we do have another leveling section that's going to come here. We're going to make Yuna more swole and make sure that she actually does this menu correctly.
14 looks a lot better. I think.
Yeah, so we teleport Yuna up to the Blitzball sphere that we got before, the strength sphere. That sphere is pulling double duty. It's really, really nice.
Yep, that should be enough.
Yay! We got past the menu.
I did make a change later on that maybe will mess it up. I hope
Oh
not.
no. What do you do?
I told it that from this point now do a left command to make sure that we're not going to the right, we're going to the left when we go up. So I don't think it'll break, but it might break.
Hopefully not. So we do need to do a bit more farming. The task is keeping track of how many of these encounters we farmed. And so we did 2 larvae. We're going to be doing 2 of the YKT bot kills, and just immediately escaping because we don't need to do anything else. And also, look, Yuna's already doing more damage than Titus's. And Titus has a sword, and Yuna's just got a staff with a fan at the end of it. Just tap, slap, slap. But yeah, since we've already done 4 encounters, we don't need to do any more. We can just immediately run away. So now we've got Seymour again. You'd think after the first time that we killed him, it'd be enough, but nope, we gotta fight him a second time. So this is Seymour Natus. We're going to smack. He's gonna counterattack with Blizzard. Doesn't really matter. Then we're gonna summon Bahamut, and Bahamut's gonna smack. Bahamut punch! Boom. And that is Seymour gone. So there's some more plot that happens here. This is where Titus and Yuna, actually decide that they're gonna go out, and there's a very, very long kissing scene.
Yeah.
And so now we're in kind of the coolest part of the RNG stuff, which is the no encounter manipulation. So Wilson, have at it.
Okay, so no encounters. There's two factors that we're going to be talking about here.
Well, so first off, what is no encounters?
No encounters is an equipment that can go on any of your characters, so in other words, one of your characters, and it makes it so that as you're running around, you will not get these random encounters that we're seeing now. Instead, the encounters counter is turned off, and therefore we just kind of run where we want and don't fight anything. So that's very desirable when we're trying to go fast, because we don't really want to do encounters, they're slow. So what we do instead is we are going to try to manipulate so that one of these items is going to drop, and we'll drop hopefully for Titus, Waka, or Riku, just because that gives us the fastest result. And to get it to drop, we're going to manipulate the RNG values in memory. The three most important ones for this are RNG 10, 12, and 13. RNG 10 decides, amongst other things, if an item is going to drop, and it's based on the percentage chance that the character that is killed will drop an item, and then what item will drop as part of that, etc., etc. So, if a character dies, RNG 10 is going to advance 3 times. If that character is an enemy, it will also then evaluate if it should drop an item. Effectively, if your characters die, it's a 0% chance to drop, but it still tries to do the calculations. So it advances 3 times if a character dies, including friendlies. It will advance exactly 1 time if we steal from an enemy, excluding the machines here. The machines interact differently. So, based on that, we want to advance RNG 10 until we know we're going to drop an item from the next thing that we try to kill. That thing being the thing that drops the no encounters. We're going to manipulate it a little bit differently on the Calm Lance so that it will actually be 2 enemies away from what drops. Don't worry too much about that. That's just because we have to go through a boss and that's going to drop an item. Or not. And we can control that. RNGs 12 and 13 are important because they dictate what item is going to drop. And so we can only advance 12 and 13 together by making an item drop off of something. So, part of the reason this Seed 31, we've talked about this before, is valuable is that it happens to line up very well such that when we get to the Calm Lands, RNGs 12 and 13 are already in a state where it's going to drop no encounters if it's the next item that drops. So that means we only have to manipulate RNG 10 so that we set it up so it's going to be perfect. So that's why we've been going through here and letting our characters die a little bit here in the Calm Lands and doing a steal or 2 here, besides that we needed a gem anyway. Things like that, we're setting it up.
I think the fact that we needed the gem is why it's doing this, because I remember the last time we got the double gem and we didn't need to do a steal.
Yeah. And some of our logic has changed since last night. But we're now in a state where we're going to be fighting a boss here in a second. That boss is not going to drop an item, but we're going to advance 3 times on RNG 10, and then that's going to set us up perfectly so that the next thing will drop an item. And then we're going to go try to get that no encounters, which is already set up that that's going to be the drop. So that is how it works. It is, if you're running this as a player, you have a program that you run side by side with this game, and then you are manually advancing the things in that program to do the exact same logic that we do via the tasks. So it is no different than if a human was playing it, except that we're just looking in at any value coming up that would be the one that we're looking for. And that will work. Yuna perfectly leveled there anyway, so the left command did not break anything. I'm going to take it out, though.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Alright, so yeah, this is the Defender X. It's going to be a very short fight, because Bahamut's going to come in and he's going to smash. That's gonna be the general trend for a lot of the fights for the rest of the run. Is we're gonna summon Bahamut, and Bahamut's gonna kill the opponent.
Hit it once, hit it twice, move on.
Hit it once, hit it twice, fry it with some chicken soup and rice.
Yep. So you should have seen there that we did not get an item to drop. That was perfect. We are now set up so that RNGs 10, 12, and 13 are perfect. So the next time we encounter and kill, assuming the next thing we kill is is it Ghost or Wraith? It's one of the two.
Ghost.
Ghost. That will drop the item that we're looking for.
Yep. So
and it's gonna
we're
come up
here now
3
in
battles.
the Cavern of the Lost Faith, which is one of the spots that we can get that will give us that'll give us the ghost. You could do additional RNG tracking here to know like what part of the cave you want to be in, or to actually trigger the ghost to show up.
Yep, we do that.
This is just yep, and right now we're just running around here because it's going to be the fastest that we can get to the ghost.
One more battle of fleeing, and then it will appear.
And so getting this no encounter armor saves like 10 or 15 minutes over the course of this.
You'll see exactly why in the next area where there's a bunch of snow and we do a lot of walking. Normally you would get encounter after encounter after encounter in that area, and it's a super drag. But no, we're just going to not do that. So this is where the silence grenade, we're going to throw a silence grenade here with Riku. That makes it so that this enemy, who only does magical death attacks, cannot do magical death attacks because it's a spell. So he does nothing here, and we just kill him.
Well then, what next?
What? That should have been Yuna coming in. Oh well, whatever. And we want Titus to get the kill just because it increases the chances that the item that drops will be on Titus. I don't have that part mapped out as far as what the RNG says it will drop, but that actually dropped for Waka, which is just as good. So we're good there. And now onward to the rest of the game.
Yep. So we've got the no encounter armor, and we can, as the no encounter armor will be active as long as it's on a character who's in the active party. Now, the thing is, we can have it drop for any of the 7 characters. We don't want it to drop for any of the 7 characters, though. Ideally, we want it to be on either Titus, Waka, or Riku, because those are our 3 swimmers, and there's going to be some additional underwater sections that otherwise we'd be getting encountered. But since we got on Titus, that's kind of the best case scenario because he's always going to be in our party. So up here, we've got the Biron and Yankee fights. This is the only fight in the game that actually scales with your stats, because they will have different stats based on what Kimari has, and we want to get overkills on both of them because they're going to drop some combination of return spheres and friend spheres. Both scenario, their common drop is, after with the overkill, is 7 out of 8 is going to be the return sphere, and 1 out of 8 is going to be the friend sphere. Depending on what combination we get, it's going to affect the menus that happen for the rest of the run. The fastest scenario is the 2-2, where you get 2 return spheres and 2 friend spheres. We got 2 return spheres, which is we got 4 return spheres, which is the most common one. Happens fine. We use a couple of the return spheres to customize our equipment really quickly, blink if you miss it. And we've given First Strike both now, in addition to Titus, Yuna has it and Arn has it, and that's going to be really useful later. So this is another scenario. This is why we needed Lulu to gain experience, because we're using her as a taxi cab for... we're going to be using her as our taxi cab for Yuna later. It's just kind of faster to do it all here now. And we're sending units to the gym more. Gotta get more swole.
Yeah, so depending on what drops there, it will branch to 3 different paths on the sphere grid. But at the end of it, you pick up all of the same spheres by the end of the run. So it's kind of like if you get this one, you start down the left path. If you get that one, you start down the right path, and then eventually you kind of just circle back through all of them, just to kind of give a more
it's
graphic
just a matter
view.
of how you can get to the spot.
Exactly.
Yep. And so now, since we have the no encounter armor, we're not going to be seeing encounters the rest of the game. A lot of running. A lot of us just kind of, talking about random stuff or donations. All this area would be full of encounters if we, didn't have the no encounter armor, and it literally costs 10 to 15 minutes over the course of the run.
It's pretty bad.
Just getting all these additional encounters. So yeah, we just get to chill, talk about stuff, talk about Foxy, run, donations.
Hi, Mom. All the good things. Then we come up on the Seymour Flux fight, because if once wasn't enough and twice wasn't enough, we get to fight him a third time. Dude has no chill.
This is Seymour Flux. This one, casually, this fight is so hard. In the speedrun, though, it's rather easy. We're going to be mixing and throwing a Chaos Grenade, because it's going to do some poison damage and also silence him, which is going to be really useful. Summon up Bahamut. Bahamut's going to smack. If we get a crit here, that saves a lot of time. Because it means that Bahamut's not going to be banished, because Seymour really doesn't like Aeons. No crit. But we don't get the crit, so we're gonna be the response is gonna be Bahamut's gonna be banished, and Unit and Titus are just gonna have to smack. And the poison damage actually will add up. But yeah, that's the rest of this fight. Casually, this fight is really difficult, and it's not made better by the fact that there's like a 5-minute cutscene before this, so every time that you die, you have to re-watch that cutscene. And oh my god, it's so awful. It's just why? Why
bad.
did they make us do it? Look, like, after the first time, they should have let us be able to skip the cuts. Like, seriously. But they didn't.
Is it the Mars crest that's hiding right there?
I don't know.
I feel like it's Mars crest. Anyway, more story here that we're not going to do. But welcome to Xanarkand. This is Titus's home. And wait, there's a joke we're supposed to do here.
Yeah, he's asleep, etc.
Yeah, the downside of this is that this home, he's kind of dreaming it up, so it's all in his head. And what?
Huh? Haven't seen that happen.
Gotta be kidding! Oh, he's breaking out. He's free.
He's
we did it. We live.
Hey.
The run lives. Meanwhile, the QA guy's in chat saying, "You broke it." Yeah, probably. I have seen that once or twice before, but it's really weird, and I don't know why it does it. But I will go back at some point and figure out why it's doing that and fix it. So here's swimming section where we do not get encounters because Waka got the no encounters. If it was
Titus
any,
had it here.
is what?
I thought Titus has it. Is it a walk armor?
No, Waka picked it up this run.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's a walk armor.
I kind of sort of did the math, and it's about a 40% chance for the character that gets the kill to get the equipment drop, and then everybody else has an even lesser chance, even across the board. So
okay, so in my defense, I'm looking at it on a very pixelated screen right now, so I thought it was Titus, when I gave my whole spiel before. But we got him on a swimmer, so that's the good thing. The rest of what I said is
first
accurate.
try. Yep, exactly. So as long as it's any of those three, it's good. So with Titus having about a 40% chance, and then all other party members being even, it's about a 55-60% chance that one of the three of them will get it. And then 30-40% chance that you get it on one of the land-only characters. So,
so it does cost a bit more menuing time, but this is a task, and our party formation changes are very fast. So
yep.
Overall, it's okay.
Here we're just doing what they're calling trials, which are stupid simple puzzles. The first one you saw there, we threw a ball and we succeeded. Yay! Just a timing puzzle on that one. This next one is going to be a color puzzle. You have to match the character with their color. I can't imagine how hard this could be.
I mean, someone could be colorblind, like my brother.
Yeah. But even if we like brute force trial and error it, there's like 6 possibilities. But yes, Riku is green, Tidus is blue, and then you don't even
get to choose for Waka.
Yeah. Waka gets the shaft on this one.
It's like, well, that one's taken and that one's taken, so I guess I'm left with this.
Side note, before we did the no encounters manipulation, we were 14 seconds ahead of world record. For some reason, we lost a minute and a half.
Because our manipulation was very low.
Yeah. So that's why we say we think that we can compete with world record pretty consistently. Is that through 3/4 of this run, we've stayed even with world record. So
even or ahead.
Exactly.
Yep. So we've got the Sanctuary Keeper fight coming up now. This is gonna be our first instance of armor break. We've seen power break being used before, where it reduced the enemy strength. Armor break is going to do basically the same thing, where it reduces their armor, and it's effectively going to make Bahamut do twice the amount of damage. So we send in Tidus, he does the armor break, we summon Bahamut, and Bahamut's going to punch, and Sanctuary Keeper is going to be very bad.
One shot, nice. Sometimes he doesn't kill on the first hit and you have to attack a second time. It's just a time loss. And now we skip all the story.
Who needs story? We're speedrunners.
Exactly. But yeah, there's literally like 5 times in a row where you walk forward and then see a cutscene, and then walk forward and see a cutscene, and that's the gameplay.
And then like, walk forward and accidentally reset your game.
Oh no! Did you do that?
No. So the joke is the opening cutscene is just being played from here.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the running joke is when you see like, you know, we're still ahead of schedule, right? We can reset here. Yeah, sure, let's do it. No problem. It's really good in the relays too. It's like, oh, we're like what, half hour ahead? Yeah, we can reset. Like, give them time to catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right there,
So
we
now we're in
unequipped. Oh.
Wait, why did we unequip? We have Riku Overdrive. Oh no, we used Riku Overdrive.
We used Riku on Flux, so now we need to charge it 1 more time, possibly 2 more time.
Did you adjust the encounter numbers for this?
It's not going to be the same as what we had last night because we had to reload that save and that messed up our encounters.
Right. No. I meant the which encounters are okay to guard on.
Yes, I added like 6 of them, but none in this area. Only in the Inside Sin area and the Xanarkand area, the dome area.
Yep. Yeah. So right now we're outside of Xanarkand, ruins of Xanarkand. You know, Tidus is solid. This is the sort of end of the pilgrimage. We're almost done. Yuna decided, like, I don't care what the church says, and if we're political enemies, I am here to save the world from sin, so I'm going to continue doing it. And so that's why we're still at Xanarkand to we do need to charge Riku's Overdrive one more time for the rest, at least one more time for the rest of the run. There are backup shots you can do if you don't get it. It's just generally faster. So hopefully we do actually get a charge.
Yeah. So right here we're kind of floundering a little bit because we're trying to get the right encounter. in theory, there are 3 different areas where we could get that an encounter that will charge Riku near instantly. And we could, in theory, look ahead to say which of those 3 areas is it going to occur in first, and then only unequip the no encounters when we're lined up for that area. So this is the first one, and then once we cross over this little hump here, that'll start the second area, and then the third area is the final dungeon of the game. So that's one of the optimizations I actually do want to get in before the event, is just to say which of these 3 areas is going to be the next encounter that charges Riku first, and then go straight to that area and unequip, as opposed to unequipping for all 3 until it occurs. So that's one area where we'll improve before the actual event. But we're still rocking a pretty phenomenal time right now. So we will still be under, I want to say 3:15, regardless of what happens.
Yeah, so unlike a lot of tasks, because this run is so long and because it is heavily influenced by RNG, we can't get a guaranteed time that the task will take, and we can't always like guarantee that it will be faster than other thing. But it is pretty much just like the strongest, like one of the. If this was a person, they would be one of the best speedrunners.
Yeah, this would be a top 5 in the world speedrun right now if it was a player playing it. Obviously, it's a task, and therefore it cannot be on the leaderboard. So even if we can break the world record, we can never hold the world record with the task. So that's a significant distinction there.
Yep, so we didn't manage to charge it yet. A bit unfortunate. It means we're going to get more encounters later, but...
Yeah. But I did add logic there that should do the same re-equip and that logic. So it should work.
Yep, so this is the last of the minigame trials. This is the Xanarkin trial. Basically, there's a lot of Tetris pieces on the floor, and we have to walk on them in order to turn them on and get a Tetris. Not quite how it is, but basically the different areas on the floor will you walk onto them and it will light up the Tetris pieces. And once we clear this room, there's going to be another room where we have to get different combinations of them, like 6 times, in order to proceed. It's a really good example of the movement system, because we make lots of very precise, very accurate movement, so that we can just run through things without needing to worry about accidentally stepping on the wrong tile and setting it.
Yeah, compared to an actual Tetris game, the music is also vastly inferior on this one specific area. But you can see how precisely we're moving around kind of the inner edges of the room and the other lights on the floor that we don't want to touch, things like that. Very precisely moving to exactly where we want to be. And at one point later, we're going to do a little dodge or juke in between 2 that are placed very close to each other. And so we'll point that out when that happens. But yeah, this is like 5 minutes of just straight stepping on things on the floor. Something, something, host for donations.
Yep. Lots of Tetris stuff.
A lot of snooze fest.
So I don't actually consider this to be the second worst puzzle. It's not hard. It's just like annoying-ish,
Tedious?
but not in like an obnoxious way.
I mean, I know there are speedrunners who speedrun this game and still like have to very carefully like follow the map to do this puzzle, because it's not terribly intuitive when you're trying to go fast. Yeah, the things I'm thinking about for fixing are Waka dying on Extractor, and the guards fight should be throwing some of the silence grenades. And there was something else. The save Sphere of Doom. But at this point, these are small fixes that will save time, but won't actually, like, unbreak a broken thing. So, this is actually looking really fantastic so far.
Yeah. Oh, something that I do feel like we need to state. If somehow we run into, marathon luck and a bug that we've never seen happen before, etc. The task is remarkably resilient. As mentioned before, it can handle what would, be fatal desyncs for other tasks, sort of without much problem, and be able to continue and adapt as things are going on. But additionally, even though it's not doing safety saves during the run, we do have saves for basically every single point in the run, so we can resume from any point, and the task can just continue on from there. We do lose the custom names from the naming incentives, but it doesn't mean that it can still continue and finish and still show everything off.
Yeah, so a catastrophic fail during the event would not be a catastrophic fail. It would be a
2 minutes, maybe.
Lose 2 to 10 minutes depending on the save that we have to go back to. Or we could jump forward to one if there was a save just right after a boss that we died on, for example. Those kind of scenarios, we can figure out something within about 5 minutes, get the task back up and running, loading into a save as opposed to starting a new game. So have good options for the marathon side of things. This menu here could have been done a little bit earlier, basically after the last boss that we fought. The reason it's done here is entirely because there's a save sphere right behind me, and it was easy to save the game right there, and then program this section, and then test it, and then fix it, and then test it right after that save. So that's why it's done right here as opposed to, let's say, 5 minutes earlier. There's a few times throughout the run where it does that, where the speedrun guide says to do it at a specific spot, and then we actually do it a little bit later. Just, it's a convenience thing. No crit.
Unfortunately, we didn't get it. If we get a crit there, then it saves some time, but we didn't, so...
It doesn't change the stability of this fight, it just goes faster. And there we get a... Was that a crit? The 33,000?
Yeah, 33,000.
Okay. Meanwhile, I'm over here being like, oh, I'm in critical health. Someone roll up a D&D character and throw a heal my direction. Greater healing or something. And then the second last sphere grid of the game, second to last.
Yep. So we're just getting Yuna a bit more swole, getting her some more speed, because we need the speed so that we can move at the right points in the fights. And that's the second to last save sphere that we're gonna touch.
Yep.
So now we're in the area of the Final Faith. This is where Untitled is. Notice the name similarity there. Untitled is from the 1,000 years ago when Xanarkand first fell, and she's the one that has been transforming Guardians into the final summon as part of the final death ritual that the High Summoners do. We don't like this. This is our story, and it's our time to choose. So we're instead going to kill a god.
Yep.
Thankfully, Bahamut is really good at killing gods, because we just punch Untitled 3 times and she dies. If we weren't doing this, it would be a much, much harder fight. Because she's a really, really scary boss with 3 phases and a lot of HP. But yeah, we just kind of We just kind of punch her through time. She dies, and we've successfully killed our first guy.
And if we had been watching the storyline, we would know that she was the first High Summoner that defeated Sin 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, she's also very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we do have Bahamut's Overdrive. It is never used.
It doesn't hit for nearly as much damage as a regular attack.
Yeah.
And it takes much longer, so that's a thing too.
And dead.
And then normally here we would learn that Orin is also not feeling so hot.
Yeah, he's also dead.
Yeah.
And guess what? So is Titus. Dun dun dun!
But was he ever truly alive? Yes, yes he was.
That's the last save sphere that we're going to be touching. If we were to touch it anywhere else, we'd be getting a couple of pop-ups saying, like, you can now use the airship to navigate wherever, and you can do XYZ, and it's like, we don't need to do that. It's only a couple of menu pop-ups, but this is a speed run. We gotta go.
Yeah, tutorials are slow.
Yeah. So, this is one of the sections that the CSR makes kind of really confusing. Because we're going to run all the way up the airship, and then we're going to teleport right back to the cockpit, and we're going to run up the airship again. Because,
something like
yes.
4 times up, 1 time down.
Yeah.
Over the next about 15 minutes. 10 minutes. So there was the up, here comes the down, and from now on we will only ever go back up to the gallery area.
Yep. Or even outside. Because that's a safe thing to do, is go on the outside of an airship, on the top of it, no safety rails, nothing tethering you down, while we're who knows how many thousands feet in the air, going, you know, how fast everyone's going, like, no problems there. In fact, that seems like a good place to fight as well, doesn't it?
It really does. I think we should have more than just the Evray fight up there. Why don't we fight, you know, the biggest, baddest, scariest thing in the galaxy on an airship with no safety gear?
I can't think of anything that will go wrong. And you know why? Because we have the power of Bahamut on our side.
Alright, so now we're magically back in the cockpit. Alright, up we go. Time number 2. Hey Rin, how you doing? Past the all bed dudes. We'll take the lift this time. And here we go.
Here we go, our first fight with Sin. So, one of the reasons that we haven't touched upon with Bahamut, that why he's so powerful, is most of the characters, you know, have their short range attack, and some of them have long range attack that we've seen kind of as a mini game throughout the whole run. Bahamut has both, you know, his very powerful punch, and also the impulse attack that we see here that can be used to hit the very far away targets. This saves us time because we don't have to move the airship closer in order to actually smack and keep on doing that. So every time that we get a crit here, so each of these parts is going to take 2 hits in order to kill. If we get a crit, it saves some time, which is nice. We haven't gotten any so far. We're literally like chopping Sin's arms off and trying to beach him so that we can run inside and defeat Yevon, who's been possessing Sin. Right? And as a reminder, Sin's also our dad, because our dad, Jekt, was Braska's final summon. And nope,
Sad, no crits.
I swear, if we get a crit on this one.
We did that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
It's not synced the same now, but Nope, no crits.
No crit. The fact that we have the impulse is also going to be really useful for another upcoming fight, because we get to just dodge. There's like 2 enemies, and this one here. So we don't want to hit the one in front. We just want to kill the enemy in back. We can do that very easily with the impulse.
Well, at this point, there's basically only one thing left that could go wrong in the run.
Ever getting overdrive? Or
Okay,
armor
2
break
things.
miss?
But yeah, the armor break miss on
I thought you were gonna fix. Weren't you gonna fix that fight?
It's synced differently, so it should be fine.
Well, okay. I mean, just in general. But yeah. Oh, right. We didn't get any zombie shark weapons, right?
I believe not.
Okay, so one of the nice things that you can get from Untitled are zombie strike weapons. They save a significant amount of time for the final fight, not because of the fight itself, because it means we don't have to skill a zombie attack on the Titus, which can cost like 20 or 30 seconds. But we didn't get any. It's fine. Minor time loss.
I tell a lie. We did get one for Riku.
We did get one. Oh, nice. That one's actually fine. That one's fine.
One of the nice things about having this be a program that's playing the game is it's also a program that can write a text file and tell me information of the run as it's happening. So I don't have to pause the run and look for something. I can open up that text file and see, oh, Riku has the zombie strike weapon. We're good to go. Things like that as the run continues to go.
So whoever gets a zombie strike weapon, the task can figure out which strat to use and sort of adapt on the fly.
Exactly.
So here's our last time fighting Sin on the outside. We're gonna do the usual thing of some Bahamut and smash.
I will poke it with a stick, and the stick is my claw. The claw.
It's your ultimate night.
Sorry, 3 hours is a long time for me to sit with ADHD, even as an adult.
All good.
It's probably fine.
And then smack. Dead.
Very nice.
So now we've successfully defeated Sin on the outside. We can go inside Sin, which is the final dungeon of the game. And try to find Sin's core, where we're gonna find our dad and Yu Yevon, who's been possessing all of the final all the final summons for the last 1,000 years, and continuing the cycle of death.
And I think there have only been like 4 high summoners according to the lore. There's Untitled.
Definitely been more than 4.
High summoners, like that brought a calm.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been more than 4.
Okay.
There are at least 6.
Okay, so the ones I know of are Untitled, Gandorf.
Yeah.
Not quite Gandalf, but Gandorf. And then there's one I can't remember the name.
Holland, Yokun, Braska, and Yuna.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I won't go so easy on you next time.
So 6. And the interesting thing from the State of the Art podcast is they were saying that they actually timelined it out, and the amount of time between high summoners is getting shorter and shorter. So there's 10 years between Braska and Yuna. Effectively, summoners are getting better at being high summoners, and so that was just an interesting take on that one topic, I thought.
I'll be right back.
Boy, we're
not getting
that
any
encounter.
luck with these recharge fights.
Yeah, I'll definitely add that to my... Oh, here we go. This one should do it.
Alright.
I won't go so easy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is the one that was supposed to charge on. All right, so that's just a bug that needs to that encounter needs to be explicitly enabled.
Yeah, and it should have been. So
That
something.
won't go so easy on you next time.
Why, Titus? Why, Titan? Ah, see what I did there?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So in order for us to successfully do this, I am going to have to stop it and take control at some point, just to get that.
Wait, don't know, because the Brassix Final Aeon fight should have the non-overdrive strat in it, doesn't it?
Maybe? Let me check.
Yeah, just check the code, but it should.
Oh yeah, so if Riku's overdrive is full, Riku full overdrive for BFA. Otherwise, use skill 0 should do the armor break there as Riku. So
Yeah,
yes, it
it's
should
gonna
have.
grid armor break onto her.
Yeah. That's like the backup strats for the backup strats. Unfortunately, the downside is that the no encounters armor did not so much this run. But we did get it, and we got it successfully.
Yeah, so that's something that we'll polish again for the... We'll do that bug fix for the marathon.
Yeah.
It was working, and probably during a code merge it got lost.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out. Because we should have Riku charged here, and we should be no encounters armor again. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, like, it's recognized that Riku needs to be charged. It's not fighting the fight correctly. Oh, maybe it'll do it here.
Live and let live.
Nope.
Regardless, it does have the backup strat in there, it looks like, so we should be fine to finish up the run.
This isn't just a rock, is it?
Yeah,
That
there's
won't go
another
so
one.
easy on you next time.
Yeah, I don't have time later in the week to record this again, so...
No, this is going to be our submission. This is fine.
Yeah.
That won't go so easy on you next time.
And in fact, we're demonstrating that even if something does go wrong, most of the time, we don't even have to touch it. It will continue through the game and still be successful,
I'll be right back.
even in those disastrous states.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's so disastrous that like we get stuck on a wall, which was almost happened but didn't happen, we can then stop it and do a soft reset and then load it into a very close save sphere near that area. So we have options,
That won't go so easy on
Yep.
you next
and
time.
we should not fully lose the run during the marathon.
So we're at the, this is the actual point of no return. If you were doing other categories or you just wanted to sort of play all the side quests, you would have to do it before you got to this part here. So this is the crystals mini game. Basically, there are two types of crystals. There's the tiny crystals that we need to pick up items from, and then there are crystal spires that spawn on the ground. If we get hit by a crystal spire, then it starts an encounter. So there's a lot of pathfinding work that's being done here to get us to the crystals we need to pick up while also avoiding all the spikes. This is actually one spot where the task has a significant advantage over people because, again, sort of this fixed camera that's happening, you don't know where all the spikes are, so you can sometimes accidentally run into stuff. The tasks, and you don't even necessarily know where all of the where all the small crystals we need to pick up are. But because everything's just in memory, it doesn't necessarily rely on the camera, the task can just know and does it. It's the one part where reading the memory is like explicitly an improvement for the task over a human doing it.
That was a 49-second egg hunt, by the way. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, that's really good. So now we're about to fight our dear old daddy dearest, good old daddy dearest, Braska's final Aeon. The fight's extremely metal. We do have a bit of gridding that we need to do first. So we're giving Riku the zombie strike. It should have given her the zombie strike weapon.
It did.
We're giving it happened so fast I could not tell. Also partially because of pixels.
Yeah, I got you.
So we're gridding a bit more onto Yuna, giving her a bit more agility. We're also giving her the spare change ability because money solves most problems. Hint hint, you should donate. and we're gonna give it more speed, then we're also gonna be giving Riku armor break from there, and continue onwards. So this fight has some of the best boss music out of any Final Fantasy boss. Why is the screen just... Okay, it was just a walk load.
Alright, so here's the backup strat as we just armor break.
Yep. That hit. And
It
we're going
did.
to talk with Titus because it's going to reduce the armor.
It skips a turn. He takes a turn contemplating Titus's words.
Yep. And then we're going to summon Bahamut, and Bahamut is going to smash. So this is a fight that really having the correct amount of agility is super important, because if we don't, then it's entirely RNG whether or not we can survive the battle. One of the attacks will kill us if it gets it off, because it like also slows us down if we don't have the right agility, and the other one won't. We do want to see the other one, which is the Jet Beam, just because it's in general faster. It's a much faster animation. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
And Titan, I'm sending you
Yeah, I see the
links.
code.
We'll take a look at it later.
Yeah.
There's the Jet Beam. Very nice.
Nice. So that's the fast way. And then we smack again, and there we go. We killed our dad. A lot of fratricide that happens in this game. But the game's not actually over yet. So the thing is, in all of the final summonings, when we defeat Sin, Yu Yevon has been going and possessing the Sin, possessing the Aeons and turning them into the new Sin. Since we just defeated the old Sin, Yu Yevon's looking for a new host. The only candidates that it has are the Aeons that Yuna has collected over the journey. So unfortunately, because of that, we have to say goodbye to our dear friends and kill them. And you know, make the problem of Yu Yevon go away at all. And what's the best way of getting rid of any problems? By throwing money at it. So we picked up the spare change ability, and spare change lets us throw 10 gil to do 1 point of damage. Normally what a person does is we know roughly what their HP is, because again, it's all based on unit stats, and we know what unit stats are going to be. And you just go to the nearest, 10,000 that is above, and you just throw that amount. We're a TAS. We can do really fast inputs. We're going to throw exactly the amount of gil that we need in order to kill them, because we can. There are a couple ways that we can figure this out. One is just by pre-calculating it ahead of time, because again, the stats are all consistent. Another is by scanning. Swapping in Kimari or something, looking at the number, swapping back out to unit, continuing. We're just directly reading the HP values from memory because, again, it's not something that really matters. We're doing this part for swag.
It's 100% for swag, and I do want to call out this specific swag is one of Titan's biggest contributions to the run, or at least most visible contributions. So this part here, like I had it just doing the generic 10,000 over whatever it was, and he came in and was like, no, we got to do this better. We got to do the swag. So that's how that came to be.
A lot of the stuff that I've done has been like optimizing memory reads or menuing or logic, stuff like that. It's not really apparent unless you're comparing it to a first version of the task. This is kind of the most obvious change.
If you do want to go look at that horrendous 15-hour Generation 1 version, it's somewhere on my YouTube channel, and it's really bad. So feel free to go check that out and acknowledge how absolutely horrible that first generation was. Otherwise, it's a very long video.
Yep. Farewell.
Peppy. Is this one Peppy?
I can't read the names very well, so I don't know. And because like the menu select, so you're supposed to be selecting which one you fight next. The menu shows up for literally 2 frames.
Yeah.
Because of how fast the task is doing everything. So I do not know what the names are because I can't see it in the menu.
So unfortunately, we've had to say goodbye to our friends Crimson, who was instrumental in some of the battle logic and a lot into the CSR and the TAS. We've said goodbye. Multiple category world record holder. We've said now goodbye to Ifrit, which was inverted, the movement tech. We've said goodbye to Rossi, and now we're saying goodbye to Peppy, 2 of the guys that were instrumental in finding memory values. And then last, we will be saying goodbye to Wilson, me, who wrote over 90% of this project. Wrote and rewrote and rewrote and rewrote, and what was the joke? Something about bugs are on the wall?
99 bugs in the program, 99 bugs in the program. You take one down, you patch it around, 178,000 bugs on the program.
That has held very true throughout this entire process. So the fact that we're getting consistently completed runs, not 100% because there is some logic that is dependent on having a good RNG seed, but we are consistently getting complete runs. That has been a very long time coming to this point.
Yep.
So before the run ends, is there anything else we want to go over?
We're going to show the incentives, like the bonus incentives
yes.
for this. We have a skip showcase for that. There is one additional thing we sold to actually defeat Yu Yevon. Now that we've thrown money at all the rest of these problems, we are going. So Yu Yevon's a fight that you actually cannot. Your entire party is enchanted with auto life, so you cannot lose. It is actually impossible. But we want to do this fast, so we're gonna haste Riku because Yuna has a zombie strike weapon. Riku's going to attack. Inflict zombie. The pagodas are going to Kiraga, which is going to do a lot more damage than what Riku did. And we're going to treat it to the good old zombie cure-all, do a Phoenix time. That is time.
Now, obviously, I'm running an auto splitter that stops and splits the run automatically, but we will let the run or the event staff know when the time occurs. So that is the run, and then the final cutscenes are not removed by the cutscene remover. So in order to show the showcase, I'm actually going to soft reset by hand here.
Yep, but that is the so technically, if this was for full submission, the task would be running a bit longer because we watch a bit of the cutscene and then it loads up the autosave. But we're just going to ignore that because it's not actually important for here.
Yeah, the autosave is a requirement. Really the autosave, showing the autosave at the end of the run is a requirement just to make sure it's a valid run.
Yeah, because of reasons we're not getting into.
Not even a little bit, and not entirely my fault, but probably partly my fault.
It's actually not. It's my fault. It's not your fault.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm the one that figured out how to do the glitch piece.
Okay, so so that would end the section for the actual run, and then this would be now we're going to load it into a we're calling it a tech demo, which is we're going to demonstrate the 4 skips that we did not do during the cutscene remover. We
could actually show off the 10-year 3-month skip as well.
Which one?
The reason that you have to show the autosave, but let's not include that because you have to set that up ahead of time, otherwise Twitch will not be happy.
Yeah, you'll have to show that to me sometime, but
sure.
Off stream. Okay, so we are going to kick it off. The difference here is I have turned off the cutscene remover, and we are now just running the game and the tasks. And actually, yeah, here we go.
So there are 4 skips that we do during the course of the non-CSR run.
I have it loading to the 4th one, not the first one.
Okay. So there are 4 skips that we do during the course of the normal run, if we weren't doing CSR. They are of various degrees of difficulty, and they all effectively work through the same mechanism, which is that the game does not like it if you try to do 2 things at once. So, the general way that these are going to work are we're going to get into a conversation. We're going to not exit the conversation until somebody else has pushed us over the line to start a cutscene.
Or some other event, some other similar event.
Some other event, yeah. So, the reason that this, and then we're going to end the conversation, we're going to regain control, and we can continue walking on. The reason this works is there's a single point in memory, a single flag that determines whether or not you have control of your character. And in normal play, if you're in a conversation, you can't, you don't have control over the character, so it just sets like, okay, set this flag to true, and then set it to false afterwards, whether or not you can use it. This flag is not very well guarded, so it's the same flag if you're doing it as part of the conversation, or if you're doing it as part of a cutscene. So if you set the flag to true once in the conversation, then you get forced into a cutscene somehow by being pushed over the cutscene line, and then you end the conversation, it's going to set that flag to false, and you're going to regain control of your character, and even though the cutscene is going to be playing, we're going to have control, be able to run, and just progress, change maps, and go on and so forth. So the first one that we're going to have here is the Mian High Road. This one's the most difficult one to do. It's a very, very precise... this is not actually the skit. This is a cutscene before the skit.
Yeah.
It's very, very precise because the hitbox that we have to hit is very small.
Yeah.
But
and it's like a frame perfect timing as well, so
yeah.
it's very, very precise. Three things I want to call out here. First of all, if we do want the laughing scene to be an incentive, we can do that. We just need to know beforehand. Second of all, we've turned off...
I can also just laugh during that scene.
Also an option.
I can laugh.
Second thing you'll notice, we've turned off encounters. That is entirely for marathon and entertainment purposes, so we don't have encounters here. That's it. Third thing is we're going to look right here at the bottom. If we get this dialogue here to show up, we were successful. Now we're going to end that dialogue and start moving. So now the chocobos are coming down. Titus is running up. He should not be running away from there. And now we're just kind of gliding. It's great.
Yep, and that's the first skip. That is very hard to do.
How much time does that save?
It's like 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, like the duration of that conversation with the chocobo lady.
Yeah, it's really long.
So here's the second one.
This is the second one. This one's called Class Go Skip. It's pretty simple. This is gonna be the first one where we're actually really pushed. This one actually saves in multiple spots because it messes with the storyline progression flags, and it actually disables a cutscene that we would run into later as well.
Brave believe in the path you...
So that's pretty cool.
It's kind of sad. We won't be showing that specific cutscene because Waka kind of kicks a cannon with a sandal on.
Yeah.
Basically barefoot. You know, life decisions.
I mean, he's made out of metal, so...
More or less.
Oh, no, so Waka's voice actor is the same one as Bender. Which is the joke.
I would be most interested
like
in
Futurama.
I've got
Yeah, exactly. See, Seymour's a good guy. He's doing good things here. This is great. You know, he certainly couldn't, have a character twist halfway through the game.
Please.
I mean, he's very suspicious here. Even.
Okay, no. Take away the music, and everything he says makes a lot of sense.
Without the music, like he's the head of a religion, and he's like, nope, I'm gonna commit heresy, and it's okay if I do it.
Yeah, I suppose there's something to that.
It like the hypocrisy starts here.
Beg your pardon, but
I'm more on the practical side of, well, maybe he's trying to come up with creative solutions that haven't worked for 10,000 years.
Well, 1,000.
I don't know.
But you know.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna run, and we're going to position ourselves kind of wedged into the wall, between the wall and a character. Then we're actually not going to be talking to the character you think we're talking to. We're talking to the one on the bottom right. He's going to be giving us a potion.
So Green Pants guy's here. We're talking to this guy now.
Yep. He gives us some item. I don't actually.
Some like ether or potion or elixir or something. I don't know.
Some healing item. and then we get
Ether,
pushed up
yeah.
there. It's an ether, and we get pushed up, and there's a cutscene actively playing right now. We can also get encounters during this, but you know, kind of whatever. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, see. The awkward thing with this one is you have to navigate basically entirely through the mini-map. Because, you know, you don't actually see Titus, because you're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
But that's the second skip done.
You remember how earlier I said that the movement is based on the direction the camera's facing? That holds true even while the cutscene is controlling the camera there. So it's a little bit of weird movement, and the movement itself is probably the hardest part of that skip if you're doing it by hand. So now
so
Guado
this
skip.
is the third one. So this one's Guado Salam. This one is one that is actually significantly different than CSR because we actually progress it normally. But what we're going to be doing here is we're just sort of doing the initial setup for it.
And now we're set up.
And we're going to talk to a character to delay their movement by a bit. It has to play all these cutscenes first.
Yeah.
Meet with Maester
Normally we talk to Riku after this cutscene, but for some reason this saves has Lulu. It does not have a functional difference from an actual run. Just, it's Lulu. It has to do with the affection minigame we've talked about a couple of times today.
I didn't actually know that you could talk to Lulu
What do
here.
you think about Yuna getting married?
Yeah, you can get Lulu or Riku, and I think that's it.
As long as the
My
program
favorite interaction is when you're talking to
continues,
Riku and you're like, hey, I kind of like you, Riku, and then
That's
she
it?
just jumps off a
She
bridge.
doesn't even
Just
like
straight
that.
yeet.
Is that okay?
people
But
learn
that is the
for
slow
many
way to do
reasons.
it, so we don't do that.
What's that mean?
Yeah, I didn't speed running this game so much, I
Sometimes
didn't actually
doesn't
know.
require love, you know? Defeat sin and bring joy to
Yeah.
the people of Spira.
I think
Marry
I
and
have
bring
played this
joy
game
to the
so much
people
that
of
I've
Spira.
seen
For you
just
now
about
to
every
journey down the
cutscene
same road.
that's entirely
All
possible
you
to do in the
need is
game.
determination.
I 100%ed this
If you have
before there
that,
was a 100%
you don't need
trophy in the PS2 days, and then again in the PS3 days, and then again on Steam. I have played this game a lot. Like, casually,
Just
too.
don't get it.
Alright, here comes the skip.
Alright, so we're going to run down and we're going to talk to this lovely lady here. Just to delay her movement by a bit. Then that runner who's coming around is going to be popping up over here. We're aligning Titus in a really specific spot. We're going to talk to this runner. He's going to block the lady. The lady's going to push us into the door. And that triggers the cutscene with Kamari. While this cutscene is playing, no other cutscene can start, but we've still gotten control over Titus. And it means that we can skip through to the Thunder Plains without being pushed back by the Guado or anything else like that. It also naturally skips the tutorial. That stuff that was kind of all taken out of the CSR, you have to progress it normally. But here's the last of the skips. This is Jiskel skip.
And something these last two have in common is that while that cutscene or story, whatever it is playing, then all of the barriers to where you're not supposed to go are for some reason taken down.
Yep.
And we don't know why, but that's how the skips are able to work. So here's a very specific
So
position.
we talk to
Trommel.
Trommel, and walk right through. And we have control during this cutscene while Shalinda is talking. And we just skip right through, and then this is the beginning of the Seymour fight.
We just kind of push a monk into a door. It's fine.
Yep, this one saves, about 2 to 3 minutes as well. Like, all the skips save a significant amount of time.
If he is true.
And aside from Mihen's skip, they're all pretty easy to do. You spend an afternoon, you can learn how to do them all.
Yeah.
Alright, and then lightning dodges.
No, we're not going to do that in the showcase this time.
Okay.
If you want to see that, we demonstrated it last year for the task giving event, so you can go watch the VOD of that if I can ever find it. And I will probably have a link for that somewhere. But this is the end of the showcase that we have here. It's about a 9 minutes and 12 second showcase in this case. And that's the plan for the donation incentive.
Yep. I can also show off the 10-year 3-month glitch, but that one requires a lot of annoying setup.
Sure.
And it's like a minute, but later if they're interested.
I've seen some pretty wacky ways that the game has been broken in other areas, like out of bounds kind of things. Or there's the theoretical Jose skip that has been done one time at half speed, but is not viable for the run at all. And so, there are some wacky things that can be done with this game, but these are the ones that are significant to speed running, and kind of awesome. So that's what we've got. And that's our showcase, and that's our run. So,
There's
again,
still a few. There's a couple more bugs and stuff that we'll be working out, but they're all stuff that we can do and that we have done in the past. So
absolutely. So you can see that we've got the consistency down. Now we've just got a few points of speed to rock out, and we should be ready for the showcase well before the October event. So, yep, that's it. And then again, we are hoping to possibly run this in parallel with Foxy Jira, as him being an RTA runner, and so he will be submitting separately. This will be our submission for the task side of it, but I think we can run it in parallel if we can make it work. So
yeah, like
that
we,
would be,
we can do a race. There's no problem there.
that would be the plan for the event. Other than that, I think I'm good to sign off on this submission. What do you think?
Yep, sounds good. I'm gonna grab some food and go to sleep.
No worries. And looking forward to the submission and the event, whether we make it or not. So we'll see you guys in October. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.